Donald Trump is going off on Joe Biden because inflation is hot, 3.5%. The Dow Jones closed 422 points down, and prices are way up across the board. Gas prices are up, rent's up, airfare's up. And so, of course, Donald Trump's taking this opportunity to go after Joe Biden because, the Biden admin kept saying inflation's done, everything's great. Oh, I love that line, transitory. Well, it's back, baby, and it's not going to be getting any better. I think this is having a huge impact on younger voters who are struggling to enter the workforce and adult life with prices so high. So we'll talk about that. Plus, man, Joe Biden's talking out both sides of his mouth on Israel, saying that he wants a ceasefire, that Netanyahu's made a big mistake, and then going, but our commitment to defending them when they fight Iran is ironclad. Yeah, great. As if that means anything. We'll talk about that. Plus, in cultural news, there's a big story about this OnlyFans woman who has found God. And people are questioning whether it's a grift and she actually found God or she's just trying to make money off people by pretending. I don't think it matters. I think these are people realizing degeneracy doesn't sell as well as virtue. So we'll talk about that. Before we get started, my friends, head over to castbrew.com to buy coffee. It is the best coffee you'll ever have. Everyone loves Appalachian Nights. At least that's what I'm told by our sales department, which is probably just one person. But we got a bunch of other blends. We got Rise with Roberto Jr. It is a light breakfast blend. We got Stand Your Grounds. The Halloween limited edition Re-Rise with Roberto Jr., because he died, is still available because we had 5,000 bags. So they print the bags, not the beans. And so they're still available. And then once they're gone, they're gone. So go to castbrew.com, support our endeavors. All the money from Castbrew right now, it's just going into setting up these physical locations so we can create physical spaces where y'all can network. But the other thing I want to do is give a shout out to Cellular Performance Institute. So you guys may be familiar. This is where I went when I was having problems with my hip, and they do stem cells treatment. It was super awesome. And they you might have seen them on Joe Rogan. Well, right now, Taylor Silverman is currently down getting treatment for a partial ACL tear. And it was really amazing. The guys over at Cellular Performance Institute got her in right away. And they're going to be taking care of her ACL damage, which I believe, based on everything we know, it's going to heal it up way faster than traditional surgery would. So just shout out. We're eternally grateful for what they offer. And if you're dealing with soft tissue damage like cartilage or whatever, this is not a sponsored spot, by the way. I'm just, they're doing good work and they helped us out. So I want to give them a shout out. If you're dealing with like soft tissue damage, tears or whatever, give them a call and maybe they can help you. They're based out of, they're in Tijuana, just south of San Diego. So really, really grateful. Then don't forget to go to timcast.com, click join us, become a member, because the show is only possible because you guys are members. That's what funds the show. Seriously. The overwhelming majority of how we operate everything is because people sign up to become members and support our work directly. As a member, you'll get access to our Discord server, which is where you can hang out with like-minded individuals and network, which is one of the most important things in winning a culture war. And you'll also get access to our uncensored members-only show, which will be coming up tonight at 10 p.m. Not so family-friendly, but very fun. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and everything else is Tim Murtaugh.
Tim, great to see another Tim here. I appreciate meeting all you guys, and I really appreciate you letting me barge in like this.
Yeah, it's a great
really
name.
Awesome.
What do you do? Who are you?
My name is Tim Murtaugh. I'm a political consultant. I've been doing political campaigns for a long time, and kind of got onto the national political scene in 2019. I was communications director for President Trump's re-election campaign in 2020, and have been doing political consulting for candidates and private sector companies ever since then. And I am pushing my new book, which is right here, and it's on a shelf behind me. Swing Hard in Case You Hit It. It's my memoir, really, which sounds funny because you probably hadn't heard of me before today. But it's half about my time in politics and largely the 2020 Trump campaign. But the other half of it is about my decades-long struggle with alcohol and the fact that I was a really, really low and desperate alcoholic and an addict, really, because I was addicted to alcohol. That was my drug of choice, was alcohol. And I woke up in jail one day in 2015, and less than 4 years later, I was flying on Air Force One with President Trump.
Wow.
And so it's a story of my comeback and how I got there and how I made it through. It's not really a how-to. Well, it isn't. It's not at all a how-to manual about how to get sober, but it's just my story. And
right on.
I decided to write it, and Thankfully, somebody agreed to publish it, and here I am talking to you guys. I really appreciate it.
Swing hard in case you hit it.
It's called Swing Hard in Case You Hit It, My Escape from Addiction and Shot at Redemption on the Trump Campaign, and it's available now on Amazon, Target, Walmart.com, all the Barnes & Noble, all the places where you get.
Well, should be fun. Thanks for hanging out. We got Hannah Claire hanging out as well.
Hey, I'm Hannah Claire Brimla. I'm a writer for scnr.com. That's Scanner News. I'm really happy to have you here tonight. Ian's here too.
Hi, everybody. My dad's name's Tim, which doesn't mean a lot, but it's
a lot of Tims, apparently.
There's a lot of that going around.
What's going on, T-Bone? I'm Ian Crossland. Great to see you guys. Actor, entertainer, musician, all the above. And I went for a great 4.5 mile power walk this morning, man. What a way to get up. I cut caffeine out the last 3-4 days. And I just keep waking up at 8:30. I go to bed at 2. I wake up at 8:30. Midnight. I get up at 8:30.
I also want to just mention this. I bought creatine, and when I bought it from Onnit, which is Joe Rogan's thing, and then they do this thing. They spring it on you when you're buying it. It's like, hey, what about you're buying your Alpha Brain, right? And so I was like, sure, whatever. I don't know. I don't even know what it is, and I bought a bunch.
Been doing an Alpha Brain every day.
And then today when I was skating, before I skated, like 20 minutes before, I actually took one of the Alpha Brains. Yo, it worked. Dude, I don't even know what to say. I was like, I was in the zone.
I have been in the zone for like 4 days straight. So Thank you, Onnit. Thank you, Tim. Thanks for buying it as well. Good to see you, Tim.
Good to see you. I ran 4 miles today. I just do most days, but I didn't have any Alpha Brain. I'm going to try that out.
Yeah, it actually was kind of bad because I was skating so well. I didn't want to stop, and my personal trainer was here, but I was like, I can't. I have to. We're filming. We're getting this done. I'm getting everything. It was.
Yeah, I'm walking. I'm like, I'm almost home, but I'm not done walking yet. That kind of mentality.
Yeah. We got Serge pressing the buttons.
Yo, yeah, that Onnit stuff is really good. I like it as well. I've been taking it every day. But I'm drinking coffee right now. Get your your Timcast coffee. Anyway, cheers.
Let's go. Here's the story from CNN. I love this headline. Dow closes 422 points lower after a surprisingly bad inflation report. You know, I love that because I'm not surprised at all. I don't know if you were paying attention to all of the videos on TikTok from middle-aged men who are and Gen Zers who are all simultaneously saying, I can't afford to eat, then it sounds like you don't need the report to tell you the economy is bad. So the general news is that the blue chip Dow closed 1.1% lower after U.S. consumer prices picked up again last month, vaulting to a 3.5% increase for the 12 months ending in March, according to the latest consumer price index data released Wednesday by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Now, I'm going to stop here because I don't need to read the news to tell good old American citizens who deal with this every single day. Like, you don't need an expert to be like, did you know your prices have gone up? You're like, yeah, I was at the grocery store the other day. I couldn't afford anything. So I'll just throw it to our good friend, Donald Trump, who posted this. Since Biden took office, airfare is up 33%. Then we have more. Since Biden took office, gasoline up 48%. We got more? Yeah. Since Biden took office, groceries are up 21%. And then we have this. Since Biden took office, rent is up 21%. Take a look at this tweet. Trump posted this on Truth Social. Inflation at the same point in Trump presidency. Under Biden, energy is up 38.8. Gasoline is up 47.8. Electricity is 29%. Natural gas is 26%. Groceries 21%. Eggs are up 49.3. Fine, I won't exaggerate. Milk's 15. Chicken's 23. Yo, this is crazy. Airfare's up 32. Public transit's 22%. Used cars 20%. Apparel is 13.5%. Well, that's Bidenomics.
Hey, first thing I think is like, that's just a picture. Is it? I mean, and not that you have the answer, but is this like true? Is this documented somewhere? Where did the data come from?
Fair point.
And the second thing is, and a little bit of a side comment is, I don't really personally blame either of these guys for the economy right now. I feel like this has been a spiraling ball of goo, and it's just been getting stickier and stickier. And it's like inevitably, they've been telling me, every trillion you add on is going to make it a little bit harder to go backwards.
Take a look at this response someone posted, calling they said, now do corporate price gouging. It is absolutely insane that people are falling for that Biden narrative where he's like, it's because the corporations are charging more for their products. Come on, man.
It's someone else's fault. It's not mine.
I love how the media is always surprised by this thing. Like every time the jobs report comes out every month, the media always says surprisingly low or surprisingly high. These guys are economists. They are constantly taken by surprise by what they're supposed to be experts at. It happens all the time.
Yeah, everybody knows economists are basically astrologists.
Right.
They just sit down, look at charts, and then they put on their wizard caps and they go, woo, and then it's completely shocking to them when the report comes out.
I like when the Biden admin is like, actually, things are good. And the American consumers are like, is it because we're suffering?
So
they're like, no, it's fine. You're wrong.
It's let them eat cake.
Yeah, seriously.
The Biden thing that what they have to rely on is they have to try to convince people that what the people are living through and experiencing and seeing in their own daily lives is not actually happening. In fact, the opposite is true. What you experience every day in your own life, that's not really happening. And they've been trying to convince people for like the last 2 months that no, in fact, the economy is awesome. You have Paul Krugman in the New York Times talking about how the war against inflation is over. He declared victory. It's over, and at very little cost. And then, of course, this happens. Inflation is
I do
higher.
not feel like the Biden administration has conquered inflation. I
No,
feel like
they
they're
have
really
obviously
losing
have
that
not.
war.
And the media, they're always like that. John Harwood, who's a retired NBC, CNN guy, not retired, fired is more accurate. He sits around and says, the Biden's just not getting credit for how excellent the economy is, and the economy is actually awesome. It's just Americans don't know it. And then this news comes out, and they are forced to report that inflation is still out of control, and then they have to say, well, this was actually surprising.
Do you think that it's surprising people because they're subsidizing gasoline and keeping prices of gasoline down?
Well, you mean the gasoline would be even higher than it
It'd
already
be like
is?
8, 9, 13. Yeah, it'd be like
sure.
$12 a gallon.
The gas should be way higher. Joe Biden drained the Strategic Petroleum Reserve so
Just
that
to
he could
keep it down.
artificially lower the price by dumping supply. And then when he was supposed to restock our emergency supply, which is for war and other emergencies, he went, nah. Because it would have driven prices up and would have been substantially worse than it is now.
Yeah. I mean, remember day one of the Biden administration, he signed all these executive orders and he did all these things. And a giant percentage of every president does a lot of stuff on the first day, but a huge percentage of what Biden did on the first day was to attack fossil fuels, which, like it or not, that's what this economy is based on. I mean, we were just talking about this before we went on the air. Until there is a viable alternative that is widely available to, 300 million consumers, fossil fuels is what we've got. He declared war on it right away. And what do you think is going to happen?
And then they play this game. Like you saw the response to this tweet where they're like, it's corporate price gouging because billionaires want Trump to win. Oh, yeah, because 6 billionaires, because you got 1 billionaire who's like, I own all these companies. Raise the prices. Like, okay.
And no billionaires donate to Biden's campaign.
Right. And that's not happening. And then what happens when Biden gets in and Keystone, for example, he shuts down the Keystone pipeline.
Day one.
And then what you immediately get is the media going, did shutting down the Keystone pipeline increase the cost of gas? False, because the Keystone wasn't actually transporting gasoline. And that's the lie. That's how they manipulate people, because they know the average person doesn't understand the finer points. In that, if you are an investor, if you work in the energy sector, and two things happen. One, you invest heavily. Your company invests heavily in the Keystone pipeline and ancillary projects, delivery dates, expectation of how much oil is available. And then Biden shuts it down. You've lost that money. Well, now they're going to try and recuperate it. So they're going to be raising prices to recover their losses. But then there's an even better one, a much simpler one. If you are projecting demand, and in those projections, you say, here's how much oil will cost in a year. With Keystone, we can increase supply, stabilizing supply and demand. Prices will remain stable. And then Biden goes, cool it there, chump, I'm going to shut it down. Then all of a sudden, the forecasters are like, okay, now in 5 years, supply is going to go down because there's no Keystone delivery. Demand will increase, prices will increase. And then you get speculative investors who buy a ton, thinking the prices are going to go up, and rightfully so. And that instantly drives prices up. All of that is on Joe Biden. And then the media comes out and lies to convince you it's not his fault. And this is not about Donald Trump. He's not the president. This is prices are up because of things Joe Biden did. He doesn't get the blame for literally every single thing that's more expensive, but he does take the blame for a lot of it.
I think the biggest blame I put on the Biden administration in this is the aggressive attack on carbon-based fuel, because it produces dirty clouds of carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide. You can reuse that carbon, atmospheric carbon. I talk about a lot on the show. You can turn it into this stuff. It's called graphene. You may be familiar with it. It's black powder. It's carbon, pure carbon. You get it out of the air, and then you can use it for a building material. You can make electronics out of it. It's like 21st century steel, and that's all you got to do.
Well, I figured it out.
Tell me.
See, what happened was the Democrats used to watch this show, and they got sick and tired of hearing Ian talk about graphene, and then went, just shut down the carbon dioxide. We ain't doing this graphene thing anymore.
So what I'd really like to point people at is instead of worrying about not using it, like keep using it. It's great stuff, but let's just recollect the waste byproduct and reuse it.
I think it's political suicide. I don't understand.
Well, remember the timeline. I mean, when Biden does all this, and it's all, under the guise of the green economy, the Green New Deal by another name, when he rolls out all these things, he does his executive orders, he kills the Keystone XL pipeline, he suspends the lease sales in Alaska and other places in federally controlled land. He absolutely attacks the fossil fuel the entire fossil fuel industry and brags about it. And the left and the media, they cheer him on and they give him all this credit. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's the greenest president ever. He's so wonderful, so protecting the environment, down with fossil fuels. We're all against fossil fuels. And then when over time, the price of gas rises, the price of all fuels rise, that feeds inflation, which is now inflicting the entire economy. Suddenly they forget about how this big flurry of events at the very beginning of the administration, how he attacked fossil fuels, which caused gas prices to immediately begin to climb. They forget that part. It's like they championed him when he suspended all the Trump policies at the border and started doing things exactly the opposite of what Trump did regarding immigration. And everybody said, yes, it's finally, we have somebody who treats everyone, no one, people aren't illegal. There are no illegal, the leftist mantra that they say.
Right.
And then when the border gets out of control, they forget that he overturned 97 Trump policies. And they don't want to lay the blame on him when they cheered what he did to cause it.
Right. They wanted the headlines. They wanted the buzzword, environmental first, turning down Trump policies, whatever else. They wanted those things. They did not think about the consequence of their actions.
But that's right. They love the policy and the way that it sounds. It makes them feel like good people because they enact and support certain policies. They just, I'll tell you what, the actual results of those policies are terribly inconvenient for them. And they don't want to handle that part.
Like the idea of stopping producing, even if we couldn't recollect the carbon, for instance, stopping to burn the carbon. If we were going to just stop burning carbon to save the environment, well, okay, what if now we can't fuel our aircraft and our tanks and our machines and our war machine anymore because we don't have fuel, and then we get attacked, invaded, or there's a nuclear strike, we'll annihilate the environment. Like the environment can be obliterated in many ways beyond just carbon. And if you take carbon out of the equation, there could be all these other ways that could end up obliterating the thing. So it's just a rushed, risky, stupid, feel-good thing, I think, to stop.
It just means, it shows you who's in charge of the administration. It's the radical left. And they're the ones. Joe Biden himself never believed any of these things in his 55 years in the Senate, however long he was there.
But just right at the end of his political career, he's saying, this actually is very important to me.
Yeah, and he never believed all these things. So you can tell who's pulling the strings over there.
I saw a video of him, I think it was yesterday, and he was like,
he's gone.
Talking. It was the worst I've ever seen him.
I remember when
it's bad.
Joe Rogan on his show several months ago said, "How could you vote for Biden? The man is gone." And now you look at Biden then today, it is an exponential collapse.
Yeah. And
this is what I've heard about people who are, sundowning or whatever they call it. It's like when you get old and you start to decline, the decline it's gradually, then suddenly it's just falling off a cliff. And Biden's there. I brought up when that protester yelled about healthcare, and he's sitting there and his eyes are half closed, all beat, and he's like, everybody needs healthcare. That was it. It was like, does he even know what's happening in the room right now?
I mean, all the signs that they keep him so under wraps. They protect him so much. He's got everything scripted for him. He's got little cheat sheets. Who's going to pictures of the reporters? Who's going to ask him a question? Mm-hmm. What question is going to be asked? They use the little stairs now for him to get on the plane so he doesn't trip up the big steps. I mean, everything. And then it used to be. Now it's a little bit more out in the open. But it used to be, if you questioned the guy's acuity, you were hounded out of polite society. You can't question it. There's nothing wrong with him.
He had a stutter. How dare you?
Right, blame it all on the stutter. My
I get you want to rally around your leader and support your leader. Okay, but we also want to elect a leader now, and a good one. So let's be honest. And
I just had this conversation with a friend who's, she would identify as a Democrat, but she was raised in a very libertarian household. And she was like, well, look, I'm going to vote for Joe Biden, but I don't want to. I'm just never going to vote for Trump. But he's not popular. People know that he's weak. He does not encourage or inspire young voters, but he's there. And so the party kind of has to follow him. That's the impression I have.
I like RFK.
I think money talks. And I think what's happening now for a lot of Gen Z, because we're seeing this polling shift, numerous polls. Oh, and I love how these progressives online are just losing their minds over it. They're like, it's one poll, it's one. It's like, there's like 7.
Yeah.
Showing Gen Z shifting. And I think it's really simple. You go to a bunch of kids who are in college, right? And they're living off student loans. And you say to them, like, Orange Man is bad. And they go, hey, whatever I got to say to fit in. And then they graduate college and they're paying rent. And they go, hey, Orange Man bad. And go, dude, I can't afford rent right now. I don't want to hear it. And then they're going to come to them and they're going to say, if you wouldn't vote for Trump, would you? Because then you're on the wrong side of history. They're going to go, I got to be honest. I don't care what side of history I'm on as long as it pays the bills.
Yeah.
And I watched Morgan McMichael. She's working with Turning Point and was interviewing college students about their college debt and their loans. And like some of these loans are like $250,000,
Yep.
$180,000. I had like $20,000. And I thought that was a lot. And it took me, it's a low interest loan. So I put it the lowest priority of loans to pay back. I just paid the minimum or deferred or whatever. But $200,000 in this environment on top of living expenses.
Trump should come out first. Trump should come out in favor of student loan forgiveness done the right way. He should say, what Joe Biden is trying to do with student loan forgiveness is unconstitutional, and it is an attempt at buying votes. That being said, we cannot have the next generation to inherit this country be saddled with debt to the point where they can't own a house, they can't buy a car, they can't have a family, and they can't have kids. So the appropriate solution is first, you've got to stop the corrupt system, the predatory student loan system. Once that's done, I think it's fair to say you suspend interest rates on existing student loan debt. If you were given money, you got to pay it back, but we could at least freeze the interest rates completely. And so that will alleviate the major problem at hand, which is someone takes out a $50,000 loan and then they end up paying back $500,000 over 20 years.
Right. Every time I see a headline that's like Joe Biden's going to forgive student loan debt, I keep thinking, okay, that's great, but why don't you stop the system, right? Why do we keep issuing federally backed student loans for students who can't declare bankruptcy of them, sending them into adulthood just in debt from the beginning with this economy? Joe Biden doesn't care about you unless he is also stopping the problem at its source, issuing student loans that are backed by the federal government.
So they're allowing these companies to issue loans at interest, and then they're printing money to pay back those companies.
It doesn't make any sense, right?
That's insane.
And it means that people who have debt, maybe we're on the hopes, like it's like a terrible relationship, right? Like maybe Joe Biden will forgive my debt, but also everyone else is taking on loans that will not get forgiven, or maybe they'll get forgiven. We don't even know. It's a system that is still existing, and he's pretending to solve it with these Band-Aid solutions.
I don't want to oversimplify it, but didn't the real explosion in college costs and therefore the problem that a lot of people have with student loans, it can be traced back. I don't want to say it's the only cause, but when the federal government, like you just said, when the federal government began to backstop the student loans and guarantee it, then that's free money that the colleges are playing with. It's taxpayer money. The colleges
they have
are
no
not going
incentive to not raise
keep,
tuition.
Right, no incentive, and that's when the tuition's skyrocketing. I mean, if you look at what like a regular old liberal arts college costs now, I'm not talking about not Harvard or something, but a respectable liberal arts 4-year college, it's approaching $100,000 a year just for an undergraduate.
It's communism. Tell me more. Communism.
Where is Phil?
That's all you got to do is say communism, and that's how we exemplify, or that's how we simplify all problems. Anything we're mad about, we just call it communism.
Or I like to say it's climate change.
And also, or climate change. That's right. I would have paid back my student loan debt, but climate change.
But climate change.
No,
and
but
caused the earthquake deal.
In all seriousness, when the government tells universities we're going to cover the debts, then you basically have government. It is a socialist endeavor at funding institutionalized learning facilities. And whether it's intentional or not, I think communists, being much more subversive than the average American, realized, whoa. This is a guaranteed path towards indoctrinating young people. Whether it was intentionally done for that reason, that is the outcome. That's what we're seeing right now. And I'm somewhat half joking when I say communists, but it is this Marxist root ideology.
That's where a lot of them
postmodernism.
are. College campuses. What drives me nuts is the politics of it. And I saw a tweet from the White House about this just yesterday when they're talking about, there was a congressman whose name escapes me, but he was critical of the student loan forgiveness, unconstitutional, all that stuff. And these people took out the money. They owe it. They should pay it back. No one's going to forgive your car loan, right? That's generally how the argument goes. And the White House tweeted at him and said, this congressman owns a family business, and he had a PPP loan, which was the COVID loan program because that loaned businesses money so they could continue to pay their employees. And then those loans were forgiven, and they didn't have to pay the money back. So they pointed out that this guy who was critical of the student loan forgiveness had gotten a PPP loan of some $100,000 or something, and it was forgiven, and therefore he's a hypocrite. That's the way the political argument goes, which is crap, because the PPP program was set up because the government required businesses to follow the COVID restrictions. They were shutting places down. They were not letting people eat inside restaurants, all kinds of stuff. Places were closing left and right. The economy would have been far worse than it ever was without that PPP loan program. And the loan forgiveness, as long as you use the money to pay employee salaries, the forgiveness was built into the program. It was planned to be that way because it was a response to the government forcing businesses to act a certain way. It's not the same as forgiving student debt. It's a completely dishonest political hack job that the Biden White House is doing, and the blasted media just goes along with it.
I just want to give a quick shout out too, with the market taking the hit that it did. Bitcoin went up. So, for everybody who's betting on the US dollar not doing so well, Bitcoin's at 70,606. And I'm wondering at what point they're going to have to adjust the way they track Bitcoin from whole Bitcoins to like tenths of Bitcoins, or I think
Satoshis.
Satoshis. Like, if we get to the point where, so for those who don't know, a Satoshi is the smallest increment of a Bitcoin. So a Bitcoin has 8 decimal points behind it. If you get to the point where a sat, they call it, is worth at least a penny, there's going to be a lot of very, very powerful, there's going to be a lot of billionaires.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of Bitcoin billionaires that are not on the radar.
Oh, dude.
That are ready to create a new society.
It's the craziest thing when I meet someone, especially like at like one of the poker rooms or whatever, like you go to DC, and there's some dude who's like 30, and you're wondering how he has this fanny pack with like $100,000 in it. And then they passively mention like, I bought Bitcoin in 2011. And I'm like, so you never worked a day in your life. Is that what you're telling me? Like, teenage kid found Bitcoin, bought 500 coins or whatever, and now he's just chilling.
Luckiest bet ever placed, right?
Yeah.
I don't understand. I'm going to sound like an idiot here, but I don't understand the whole process of mining Bitcoins. How you can tell these computers to do a series of endless mathematical calculations, and somehow it creates Bitcoins that are now worth. I don't understand how
it's
the whole thing works.
it's solving an equation, and then it gets harder and harder to do, and they're all competing for it, and they get their blocks that get released. And when's the halvening?
April 24. Oh, it's this.
Am I the only one here who doesn't know how
I have
it
no
works?
idea what happening is,
Probably.
but I'm excited.
I'll simplify it for you. You basically, I think they use GPUs for the most part for this for the processing power, and you're trying to solve complex equations. It's an artificial problem to create scarcity, which requires converting energy into problem solving, which then you earn fragments of Bitcoin, so you make money. And so the price of Bitcoin is basically reflecting the energy costs of producing the Bitcoin. So it's effectively backed by the energy to produce it. The halvening is when the rewards for mining get cut in half. And it happens, I think, like every 2 years, something like that.
Oh, maybe it's either 2 or 4. Yeah, you're right. I'm looking for the actual date.
Because it keeps growing, and then so they have to cut it in half.
It's
so like a stock split, more or less?
I don't know. What I can tell you is that there's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin, but it gets harder and harder to produce. So right now something like 19 million have been made. But in order to actually produce the last bits, it's going to take like 100 years. So it gets harder and harder to do. But if the price of it right now is $70K and the rewards are going to get cut in half, this is not financial advice, but let me tell you, before we move on to the next segment, if somebody runs a mining operation in China and they spent $10 million, $50 million setting it up, and it's costing them right now $70,000 in energy costs to produce one Bitcoin, when the halvening happens, it's going to then cost them $140,000 to produce one Bitcoin. And that means they cannot sell the product they produce unless it's for more than $140,000. So what we usually see then is the miners hold on to it, basically backlogging supply while demand keeps happening, because especially with El Salvador. And then eventually the price is forced upward as the people who are mining are like, I can't sell it for less. It's got to go up higher. Then you'll get some institutional investment as the product expands. Then the price booms and the miners start selling it off. And that's when Max Kaiser is saying, based on all this stuff, he's projecting like 220,000 per coin coming up soon.
That's going to be May 2024 is anticipated. I don't know if there's an official day. They may have it not public today. And I could see so people are buying, it looks like people are buying now in anticipation of the halvening when they expect the price to explode. It's not going to double.
It's not just that, it's the ETFs.
And the ETFs.
So I bought into an ETF and it's paying dividends like crazy. I can't believe it. So
And that's like-
I'm not here to do a Bitcoin thing. I was just going to mention
That's
that.
like when you, instead of buying the Bitcoin, you buy the ETF of the Bitcoin that gets traded. Someone else is holding your Bitcoin, so technically you don't own it, but people are just trading your ETF around. I think that's how that
you get paid
works.
dividends, and the dividends are the best dividends I've gotten on anything. It's crazy.
Okay, then you know more. I could be miscommunicating what an ETF is, but I think
Yeah,
that's
I don't
how-
know.
You don't
gotta-
actually hold the Bitcoin in that
You got to
case.
talk to a financial advisor, but I've got my crypto. Let's move on, and we'll talk about World War III because that's happening. We have this from The Guardian. I love this. Netanyahu making a mistake on Gaza, says Biden, as he urges Israel to push for ceasefire. Biden actually said he wants a 6 to 8 week ceasefire, pissing everybody off because the left doesn't like him no matter what he does. And now you got people on the right being like, there's still American hostages in Israel. And then here's my favorite part. Then today, Biden vows ironclad U.S. commitment to Israel amid fears of Iran attack. We have no president.
No.
You cannot call this man. Look, he wants to win votes from progressives. So he comes out and goes, oh, what Israel is doing is wrong, but we will defend them no matter what. His words meaningless completely. Yeah. Iran said they'll attack Israel. Israel said they'll attack Iran. And then Biden says, no matter what happens, we'll defend Israel. So when he says Israel's doing bad in Gaza, Israel's like, what do we care? No matter what we do, you will defend us. So have a nice day. It's just duplicitous garbage. And we're going to find ourselves entangled in this conflict. Or
Right.
we are entangled in it.
It's terrible fence sitting on the Biden administrations. They're trying to win every side of their party because the Democratic base, I think, has been really split over the Gaza, Hamas, Israel issue. And I just think Biden will suffer in the polls because of it. He can't try to appease every side of this argument. And if he's committed to Israel, then he's kind of effectively picked a side for a lot of his voters' perspective.
I do want to give a shout out to Donald Trump for his statement about this. He said, well, let me just play it for you. So, here you go.
Any Jewish person that votes for a Democrat or votes for Biden should have their head examined.
Oh, it has nothing to do with Jewish people, man. That's the
I
problem.
love it.
You got to not conflate the state of
I
Israel with
just love
Judaism. That's what Hitler
There's-
did. It's not about Judaism. It's not about Jewish people. It's about the state of Israel and what it's doing.
Yeah, well, this is the opposite of what Hitler did.
Hitler would talk a lot about how, it was before Israel was formed, but he would talk about, so Hitler didn't do this because there was no Israel at that point.
When was Israel formed?
1949, I think.
Was that when it was?
Yeah. 48?
48. Trump has been saying things like this for quite some time because of what Joe Biden and the Democrats represent. And perhaps toward me, I would have put it a bit more eloquently than you should get your head examined.
Would you have used the Joe Biden paraphrase and say if you're
if you don't vote for me, you're not Jewish.
Yeah,
I feel like that would have been the worst.
To me, that's a lot like what, and then Trump caught a lot of hell for this too. But when I think it was at a rally when he was talking about black voters, saying, look, you as a group, you've been voting for Democrats for decades. Give me a try. What the hell do you have to lose? And to me, it's very similar to that.
I do think Trump is a funny guy.
He's very, very.
He's real funny.
He's a funny guy.
Did you see him at the restaurant buying 30 milkshakes?
Yeah.
Making everybody
Chick-fil-A,
laugh.
yeah.
He was like, "You're all gonna get rich." People want to hear that.
Well,
He
and if
is
you
a
look
very
at the
funny
clips
guy.
from that restaurant, people are hugging him. Everyone's really excited to see him. I just don't see this energy at any public appearance that Joe Biden makes. Like he doesn't have the charisma to compete on this level with Trump. Trump is the popular vote for a reason. He's literally popular.
Yeah. Then this thing, like we were talking about Gen Z voters and talking about how they can't afford rent and things like that. Now, to me, this campaign shakes up the 2024 campaign. It's set up really perfectly for Donald Trump because now voters have the benefit of being able to compare the two presidencies side by side. And it really is a true rematch. We had Trump as president for 4 years. We're near the end of the 4 years of Biden. And you can see by comparison, and to me, I think that, side by side, Trump wins easily. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to win the election easily. I think it's going to end up being really, really tight, just like 2016 and 2020. It's going to be like 3 states with the two of them separated by 10, 20,000 votes in each state. And it's basically a coin flip in those 3 states who's going to win. And that's 7 months from now. So who knows? But it is really set up really well for Donald Trump. By the comparison.
There's probably some kind of shadow campaign, if you know what I mean.
Well, look, in 2020, I remember we were at a rally in Battle Creek, Michigan in December of 2019. It was a week before Christmas, and we were at a rally there. And at the same exact moment back in Washington, Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats were impeaching Trump for the first time. And we thought at that time, oh man, this is going to be the dominant issue of the whole campaign, this impeachment. Stood to reason, right? He got impeached by the House. It's going to be a lasting campaign issue. Well, we didn't know anything about COVID or anything else. So God knows what's going to happen in the next 7 months. Now, what we see today is not the way the race ends up. No way. And we don't know what's going to happen.
I feel like the Social Security numbers, we brought this up like night after night. I do not want to beat a dead horse on this. You may not be familiar with it, though. And I know the audience is almost by now.
So I'll just ask, have you seen the Social Security verification numbers that show hundreds of thousands of people without IDs trying to register in various states?
No, I have not seen that.
So it's a big story of the past couple of weeks. There's something called the Help America Vote Verification. When someone tries to register to vote without an ID, they have to use their social. It gets sent to the SSA, who then verifies if the person is alive or dead or even exists in their records. And Texas is registering something like 200,000 every 2 weeks. Texas denied this, saying, no, we haven't done this, but the Social Security Administration is reporting they did. Missouri, on February 17th, had 23,000 deceased people, according to the SSA, try to register to vote without IDs.
And for reference,
where has this been? I haven't heard anything about this.
In Missouri, 80,000 people were attempted registration. 25,000 of them were dead. That's a third of them. What in the hell is going on? Look at these numbers. This is like.
So where are you getting this from?
The Social Security, SSA.gov.
Really?
This is the Social Security Administration website. And it's something called Help America Vote Verification. And they say HAVV is for states to submit only new voters who do not present a valid license during the voter registration process. February 17th is one of the most suspect weeks because Missouri registered, I shouldn't say the word register because what I mean to say is they noted 78,000 registrations with no IDs, 23,000 were deceased. And this is single match deceased. These are registrations that came back, matched in their database as a dead person. And now Texas has said...
So were these rejected?
No, they don't reject. What they do is so let's say you're in Missouri, you register to vote.
Yeah.
Then the state says this person did not have an ID. Can we get the SSA to verify this is a real person? The SSA then says, you are alive, you are dead, or you're not in our database. And so they told Missouri, yes, 23,000 of the people who submitted are dead. Here's your, thank you and have a nice day. And then,
it's up to Missouri to do whatever.
Texas
Attorney General
issued a statement, Secretary of State, denying that they actually registered this many people. They're like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. It must be a wrong number. And I'm like, hey, all I'm going to say is this. Maybe it's the Social Security Administration is broken because we can check the numbers for every week. Mm-hmm. And Texas has been consistently in 100 to 200,000. If come November, Texas goes Democrat, don't be surprised.
I think.
They've been saying they're going to win Texas every election for the last 10 elections. So, I mean, do you think this has something to do with illegal aliens or? What?
Yes, I do.
I don't.
Yeah, you don't.
You don't think so?
You don't.
Some of it maybe, and I'll tell you why. You can see here on the website total non-matches. Interesting number. In this, let's go to Texas. There were 36,000 non-matches. That means out of 219,000 registrations, 36,000 did not get a proper Social Security number. I'm sure some of them could be incorrectly filled out forms. That number says to me, yeah, it seems like there's a lot of non-citizens trying to register to vote and they're using fake information. Who knows necessarily? We don't know for sure. But I think when you look at Pennsylvania, Texas, and the total people who are being registered without IDs, I think it's more indicative of somebody who has access to DMV records and voter registration records, cross-references them, removing all that appear on both, and then finding all of the DMV, all the people who are listed on the DMV registration or drivers who are registered with the DMV or MVA, who have not registered to vote. They can then register on those people's behalf without them knowing to bunk addresses where they can then get the universal mail-in vote or do something like that.
So are some of these states, like I can see from across here, Virginia looks like it's in single digits.
Yeah, let's go to the week ending in March 30th. So this is the most recent data they have.
So I wonder if some of these...
New Mexico is 0. New Hampshire is 0. You've got Mississippi 36. You've got Maryland 2,619. I mean, these numbers could make sense. Arizona 25,000 seems kind of odd.
I wonder if you see these big numbers spike, like that's a 5-digit number, right?
Yeah.
Arizona is a key battleground state. Swing
Sure
state,
is.
right? So
Yeah,
I don't know.
Pennsylvania,
I don't
too.
know anything about this.
You
but
do.
boy,
You go back the months and look at Texas, and it slowly goes down 150,000.
But then it goes back up.
80,000.
A year ago, it's 200.
It's
It's
really
190.
interesting.
I should say, I think it has to do with the illegal immigration, and they're going to be trying to register people that aren't citizens. But I have no evidence. It's just a thought, and it's a correlation that there's this illegal immigration. and there's these
It could
numbers.
be, to be fair, that Joe Biden is the Lich King, and so he has the undead vote. And Trump hasn't
be.
Trump hasn't worked very hard to get the undead vote.
Yeah,
so
they will rise again.
He hasn't spent a lot of time campaigning for it, to be fair.
No.
I think Trump needs a necromancer on his campaign.
He's
So
going to
help him.
need to do a tour of the underworld. I'll go.
I mean, Biden is so close;
That
he
would
can
be a
see
lot
through
of
the veil.
fun.
You know what I mean?
If you went with Donald Trump, you'd have a good time.
To the Hollow Earth.
I promise you.
I'm into it. Meet all the zombies.
That would be one of the greatest comedy movies of all time.
to the Hollow Earth.
Journey to the Center of Hollow Earth with Donald
With
Trump.
Donald Trump.
Yeah, that'd be badass, dude.
Incredible.
I'd go there. You see the wind blowing in my hair as we're like flying on some magical donkey like through this giant cavern.
Magical donkey.
Yeah, I was picturing more like
I
that
was
Falcor,
picturing,
you know?
I was picturing a submarine or
never-ending
something.
story, kind of.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking
That's
of,
what
but I
you're
just said
thinking
donkey. First word that came out.
Yeah, I think Joe Biden is so old he actually can see through the veil and communicate with the dead, and that's why he's
doing well with them.
Yeah, he's doing well.
He does look like the head knight. Well, now I forget. It's been so long since I watched Game of Thrones. But the White Walkers.
Oh yeah, the White Walker.
He looked like the head guy. He kind of
Oh, no.
he's a little sunken in there a little bit now.
I feel like he has no chance of winning because his own base doesn't want him. Then there's RFK. I just don't see a libertarian. If he does, is he officially with the Libertarian Party now, RFK?
I don't
No.
think the
No,
Libertarian
he's
Party
not.
would
Tapping the
take
Libertarian
it.
Party.
He's running just independent.
Looking for a lot of money. And he's like he needs to get on all the ballots. But he's going to take, I mean, his charisma is going to take votes away from a lot of them from the Democrats that are really not happy
Yeah.
with Biden.
Do you have a
Right.
prediction about how RFK affects the election?
I think he's got to hurt Biden more than he takes any Republican votes. I think if I'm sure the RNC and the Trump campaign will be doing this, but I mean, if you look issue by issue, there are certain things that I think would lead Republicans to maybe flirt with RFK as a candidate. But he's an environmental radical extremist. He's like AOC on the Green New Deal.
Right.
And if any Republican or any conservative or any libertarian finds out about that has got to be a deal ender for flirting with RFK as a candidate, in my mind. I mean,
Right.
the Green New Deal, it would just devastate everything that we know about our economy and the world economy. It would be absolutely devastating to throw us into that overnight. And he's that guy.
What are some of the worst aspects of the Green New Deal? Because I'm not super familiar with it.
Well, it attacks. First of all, when this was all being debated, I was working in the Trump administration. I was the communications director for Sonny Perdue, who was the Secretary of Agriculture. And one of the chief enemies, there's lots of enemies. Fossil fuel industry, first of all, they want to get to net zero carbon emission, and that means the absolute death, not a phasing out, but not a gradual reduction, but like the death
closure,
penalty,
yeah.
closure on fossil fuels. It would be economically devastating. Also, they hate agriculture, and every time they get caught in one of the things that they're attacking, they try to backpedal and deny it. Like AOC and her staff accidentally, this was a big story at the time, accidentally put up a version of the Green New Deal on AOC's website that had some stuff in it that they probably meant to take out, like getting rid of and eliminating cows, for example.
They're anti-cow?
Yes, they're actually anti-cow. And what was embarrassing, the reason why they got embarrassed is because the document they put on her website actually contained the phrase cow farts. Because
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I
you
remember
remember
that.
this?
Yeah.
Because of the methane. And then they say, no. And then the whole thing, Republicans said, oh, they're coming for your hamburgers.
And planes.
And they were. And planes. They want to get, of course, they don't want you to fly anywhere. And they think that agriculture is one of the great scourges of the growing food out of the earth is a problem for them.
Yeah, I just watched a video with Dave Asprey on Tom Bilyeu's channel. It's from a year ago, but they were talking about regenerative agriculture at one point and about having animals on your farm and the importance of it, because what they're doing, talking about vegan food and like the vegan meats and things where they want to use glyphosate and strip the soil. They don't want any animals there. They want to kill. It actually ends up killing off bacteria in the soil.
I just watched this video.
It paralyzes the worms.
Yeah, I just watched this video of a girl saying, I was vegan. As a kid, I started as vegetarian because I care about animals. Then I became a vegan because that seemed better. But then I became concerned because of the sustainability, because a lot of vegan produced products are actually very heavy on the environment.
Yeah.
And then so she's like, so I guess I should just die. Like she this was her conclusion, that she just had no future, because again, this fear tactic that comes with a lot of environmental messaging ultimately drives people to say, how do you want me to stay alive? What do you want from me? You don't want me to be able to grow food?
Right.
It comes, I think, organically, like really humanely treated cows is really what it comes down to. The milk and the meat you get from, and the hides you get from a really well-treated cow is like indefinably valuable to the human race. And what happens is the waste that they produce and dump on the ground refertilizes it. Without those animals, they just end up destroying the earth to make get this vegetables up. It paralyzes the worms, which make the soil, which make healthy stuff for the plants. Then the plants start to die. So you need the animals to refertilize. So you've got to keep the animals in the food supply, in the food chain. But I understand the danger of industrial agriculture.
Sure. And everybody has seen examples of how anything to excess can be bad. Anything. But I mean, I don't think that American U.S. agriculture is the enemy of all humanity. I really don't. But and at the bottom of it, at the core of the environmental message is a hatred of humans. They blame humans for everything. I mean, honestly, we are obviously the dominant species on this planet, and they wish it were not so. They really do.
Yeah.
That is
Do
very
you think the average voter really understands what they're saying when they're advocating for?
Well, they lie and conceal it, so no.
Right. And when Joe Biden made environmental policy a huge part of his platform, do you think voters really understood what that was asking for, or were they just like, "Yay, we're so good, the environment"?
I don't know. I mean, some of them probably do, but I think a lot of people gravitate towards political ideas that help them feel like a good person.
Yeah.
And I think that's what. And this is another example of a thing. Do you think Joe Biden, the senator from Delaware, ever gave a rip about all these far left environmental ideas? No, it's because he in order to be able to get where he's at right now, he had to bow to all of the things. That's why he opened the border. That's why he's attacked all the fossil fuel industries. I mean, he's not in charge of that administration. He just isn't. Those have never been his policies. Never.
Right.
So it's AOC. She's the real president.
And people like her. Yeah.
I think she could. I think she'll end up. I wonder if she'll end up as like a speaker position, or if she'll actually be a prominent front runner for the Democrats in the future.
Maybe, if it were up to people, the public, she might have some appeal in there. I think the other members of Congress don't like her.
Yeah.
I don't think they take her seriously.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Why is that?
She's obviously, she's a show off. She's a showboat. She says stuff to get attention all the time. She looks silly all the time. I think there are, maybe this is an unpopular opinion, but there are members of Congress who are quite serious people and are big on policy and are big thinkers. There are. And there are some who are clowns, and AOC is one of those.
Right. Didn't she immediately ask for a pay raise as soon as she started? I'm not remember the detail, but
well, there was an effort by Congress to increase their pay, and she was on board with it.
Yeah, I just remember someone being like, "You just got here, you haven't done anything
Right.
yet." Like there was a level of celebrity that came with her candidacy, which she has leveraged well, right? She has a huge following on social media. She does have a lot of influence over young progressive voters, but I could imagine that in Congress she's not everyone's favorite to work with.
No, I wouldn't think so.
I guess when you're running for president, it doesn't matter. You're out of Congress. You just don't worry about Congress.
Yeah.
I'd love to meet her because I think she's really popular and and hasn't developed the restraint yet. Like you were saying, she says too much sometimes and sounds like a fool. I've been there. Alec, I know, and surrounds herself with a bunch of really good scientists that truly understand 21st century technology, that we could make a better world, that we could reuse the carbon, that we could create a hydrogen-based fuel economy. Like get her involved in those, like really creative, progressive. Like that's the way to progress, is towards sustainability in that venue. I think she could be a really valuable asset to the United States and the world.
Yeah, it is interesting because what I'm thinking of now is when she went to the Met Gala in that dress that said "tax the rich," and there were all kinds of. She got there was an ethics inquiry into it because was she gifted this dress? What are the tickets? Things like that. But really, she wore a dress as a slogan that was to catch the attention of her voters. And I think maybe you can answer this better than I can because you've worked on campaigns and you've worked in politics for so long. But I think there are some people who inspire attention. They have a charisma that draws people to them, but it doesn't guarantee that they know what policy should be advocated for, right? The staffing around a candidate is really important.
Certainly, yeah. I think in the case of, I mean, I don't know how to psychoanalyze AOC from afar. I don't know. I've never met
But just
her.
generally, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, sure, there are some candidates who are. She is very charismatic. She's great. You know, she's perfect for this TikTok age. She's really good at that. She looks good on camera. She's obviously very attractive. I don't think she's stupid. I think she talks a lot about stuff that she doesn't know an awful lot about. That doesn't make her dumb. That makes her a little bit too aggressive in getting into areas where maybe she's not really that familiar with the policy or whatever.
Like
else
ignorance, you would call it sometimes.
Yeah,
In D&D, if you play it, you know there's charisma and then there's intelligence. They're different. And then there's wisdom, which is another thing. And some people are very charismatic. They're not very intelligent. Some people are intelligent with no wisdom or very low. They don't understand. They know that if this continues, then that will happen, but they don't realize that about the outside. That's the wisdom. And then they have,
I'll simplify it for you. Knowledge is knowing that tomato is a fruit, and wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad.
True.
right.
And then
there
charisma is
are
just getting
people-
everyone to
Pretty good.
eat it no matter
There
what.
are people who are so well versed in all kinds of issues. They could give you in detail really great plans, but you couldn't put them in front of a rally and have them really get people cheering for this, right?
Right. But you could, for the right crowd, people will go nuts for AOC.
Right.
You know, you put her in front of the right audience and they'll love it. They'll eat it up because she knows how to sell it. She knows how to, when she's comfortable with the talking points, she's really, really, really good. I would never call her stupid. She's an excellent politician.
Midwit, perhaps. You can have high charisma and low intelligence. Like
Yeah,
you were
yeah.
saying.
I bet the media warps her a lot and catches stuff out of
understand,
context.
Well, she would-
midwit
they
doesn't-
would. They
midwit
would
doesn't.
treat- go ahead.
Midwit doesn't mean stupid. It means slightly above average intelligence.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
I buy that.
Like a 12 intelligence in
But if
D&D
she,
or
listen,
something?
if she were a Republican and doing the things that she does, her reputation, her national reputation would be in tatters, but the media lays off her.
Right.
You're right. They won't skewer her. They won't fact check her. PolitiFact doesn't attack her like they would attack Marjorie Taylor Greene or somebody
Right.
like that because she gets protection because of the D next to her name.
Does that sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to change stories. Did you want to say something?
I was just going to ask if you felt like that media protection helps younger Democrats, but we can always talk about that later.
Well, I want to jump to the story from the New York Post because this was going viral on social media. U.S. Navy warship commander mocked for holding rifle with scope mounted backwards. There
It
it
was
is.
rough. It was not good.
Okay. So he's got the scope on backwards. Apparently, the cap is still on it. And as an aside, many people are pointing out he's doing what's called chicken wing. Other people mentioned, why is there a hand on his shoulder? Like, what is this? And some people are saying, like, how did this improperly mounted scope even get out of the armory? And his fingers on the trigger, he's firing. In the photo, there's shell casings, but this is massively embarrassing.
Is that an AI picture?
No,
No,
it's
it's
not.
a real.
And they put it up on Instagram and then deleted it.
Yeah.
Which like
And some people were like, it was marketing. They wanted you to talk about the Navy. I'm like, no, the Navy can't recruit when everyone thinks they're morons.
Maybe it is marketing. Like you put a misspelling in the title of a video.
No.
All of a sudden,
No,
you're
I
like,
feel
hey,
like-
you misspelled. And the comments go up.
Right. The Navy needs to recruit people, so they need to appear competent and badass because you're talking about this is combat. Like, here's a guy with a gun. Now you're going to get some young person who's going to be like, so they made a huge mistake that could get you killed? I don't want to stand next to that guy.
right.
Terrible advice.
It's not inspiring. It's not going to make people be like, yes, I will join the Navy.
Did they come up with an explanation for how this happened?
I don't think they said anything. I think they just deleted it and then shut up. Yeah.
So is the article like, hey, look at this weird photo from a Navy?
No, they
Was
deleted it.
Was it an official Navy
Yes.
post?
So those
Yeah,
shell
on their
casings, we assume that those shell casings are flying because he's the one firing the rounds, shooting
Yeah.
the rounds. Okay. Maybe that hand on his shoulder is saying, hey, buddy, your scope's backwards.
Someone, but the cap's on it. It's like, I think they were thinking they would do like a prop photo, not realizing that people would call them out for the prop photo. A lot of people were calling out for the chicken wing, which is when you hold the weapon with your arm out. And a lot of people say it doesn't matter. It's considered improper because you will get shot in the arm. And so you keep it down and close to your chest or whatever. But other than that, it's just, look, man, we're having a hard enough time with recruitment. We've got the U.S. shifting its purchasing of weapons for Pacific theater away from desert, Middle Eastern stuff. So it's clear that the U.S. is taking seriously the threat of China and Taiwan. And we really need people in the Navy, especially if we're looking at like a World War III scenario. We've got the Houthi rebels bombing cargo ships and all that stuff. And this is not confidence building.
No.
So I'm just going to say this. Man, they are doing everything in their power to destroy this country.
And this is a systemic problem, right? That means that everybody on this boat who was here for the photo shoot was like, looks good, man. Have a good time.
Yeah,
this guy
somebody-
who held the gun. Then everyone who was like, here's the photo. Okay, social media team, here you go. Like, many people who have joined the Navy, who theoretically must have been trained in some sort of arms, like, carrying abilities, saw this photo and said, looks good. Like, that's not good.
I think you may be being kind. It may just be that they took 150 photos and they dumped them to some Instagram intern who was like, this one looks good.
The intern at the Navy who theoretically would have also been trained how to hold a weapon.
The intern's probably in the Navy.
I'm wondering
Nobody
if,
would
like,
caught this. Like,
I'm
it's
wondering
not
if he
good.
didn't really even fire the gun. They just threw some casings in the air.
That's what I think too.
That could be.
Yeah.
That could be.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you? I mean, I'm going to talk about something I don't know very much about. Wouldn't you, looking in the scope, facing the wrong way, wouldn't you notice immediately?
Yes.
Well, apparently the cap's still on, so
And
you
the
would
cap
see-
is still on, too?
You would see nothing.
Which that makes me hope he is not firing. Yes, like this guy is firing a gun and he can't see through the scope, and this is our Navy.
Well,
Yeah, he just picked it up for a photo. I bet that's a photo op right there.
Yeah.
His
He's
arms
commander
out.
too. Commander of a U.S. Navy warship.
Really?
Yeah. Look at that.
I want an explanation.
wasn't there a picture of Obama looking at the looking across the DMZ to North Korea with using binoculars that still had the lens caps on?
I hope
there?
so.
Let's
That's so
find
See if we
funny.
can find that
There
one
was
out.
there was a picture of someone.
We all make mistakes, but again, like I said, this photo wasn't just this one guy in the Navy posting it to his personal Instagram. This went through many people.
No, it
and
looks,
they were like,
it looks like the
good.
photo of Obama. The lenses, they're fine.
Are they? I swear there was one. Somebody did it with lens caps on.
That's really funny.
It just seems wild to me. And also, you know, I think it is interesting that they chose just to pretend like this isn't happening, right? Like, is this the correct response? Do you not address this, or do you try to make it like, do you put another one out that's like even worse? And you say, can you see all of our mistakes? Like,
Yeah,
do you
like,
make a
where's
joke out of
Waldo?
it? How does the U.S. Navy come
Like,
back
what
from
is
this?
what is wrong with his uniform? And you
Right,
like find
right,
the one
right.
piece. Apparently, according to Snopes, it was Presidents Clinton and Bush peering through binoculars. Status is undetermined if the lens caps were still in place. There's one of Bush. That's Clinton, and those definitely look
Okay.
like.
It's a bipartisan mistake.
Yeah, they look like capped, and then there's one of
I knew it had happened to somebody.
Bush, but it looks like the caps are off on Bush's. But then there's another picture of Bush looking through with the caps on. That's so funny. From 2001, yeah.
This one right here, 93.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
Clinton.
in many cases, you're a prisoner of whoever hands you whatever
yeah.
it is you're supposed to be using, right?
Right.
True, and
and
he
then
might
put it
have
up to your
immediately
face and
taken the
click.
caps off.
Yeah. And then, so who knows?
But with
Who is
this
this?
scope, someone had to put it on the gun, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe he picked it up. He picked it up. They took the picture and he was like, "Oh, the cap's still on." And then they were like, "We're using it because it just looks good.
It just
no
looks
one will
so-
notice." What in the hell?
That seems to underestimate
So
gun
if
culture
you're
in America.
wondering why people are resigning their commissions and why our recruitment numbers are so low, here you go. It's a chicken with his head cut off. You know, part of me is just wondering about like social order decay and everything that's been going on in this country, and I'm like, part of me thinks that we're in a simulation, and the generations that actually built this they never really existed, and the Earth was created as is 70 years ago, and then they were like, now let's see if humans can actually maintain this if we tell them that it's possible, and it's just falling apart because humans are stupid.
Well, I think it's a good time for people to become a military commander. If they want to join the military, go to like officer school, get trained to command and lead people, because we need a really good group of commanders.
and just wait out the current hierarchy.
Yeah, because really, if some really horrible thing happens at the top and they give you the order to like annihilate your own people, we need commanders in place that are willing to resist those orders.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think right now, I mean, especially because of the mandates put out during COVID, people are even more wary of the military. But I also think that when you're on the precipice of potential conflict on a geopolitical level, you know, people who would maybe feel a call to serve the country look around and say, I don't want to serve under this president. I don't want to be sent to that war. Like, I don't see anything. And I think even more so, because distrust in the government is so high, you'll see people who, again, who are qualified, because it's a very small pool of people who are actually qualified to join the military and who are willing.
Right.
And I think a lot of them are looking around saying, I think I need to stay with my family in case anything happens.
So I guess we got a super chat where they mentioned, I saw this on Twitter. Dark Hellhound says, don't forget the Navy. Facebook had a guy that guy that welding gloves said, "I eat ass" with a heart on it.
What?
Yeah. So, there's that too.
That's a good one.
That's just.
But
That's the Navy, you know what I mean? Like in the Navy.
Look, let them be. I thought we took away. Don't ask
That's
them
a
tell.
village from the village people. It's just.
But you have military commanders talking about how climate change is the greatest national security threat that there is, and when we have Iran doing what Iran is doing, and you have China doing what China is doing, and there's actual real global threats for the leaders of our military to talk about climate change as what is threatening the United States. I mean, that's
Climate
not,
change
that's
is
not
all
your,
powerful.
That's not your job, dude. That's not why we have a military. And if that, if you're at the recruiting station about to sign up and it's like, all right, why am I doing this? Climate change? No,
I got one. Y'all you're gonna look real stupid because I think that the recruitment numbers are probably too good and we have too many. And those photos were released because we want to convince Russia and China that we're weak and feeble.
Ooh, I like where your head's at.
And then they underestimate us. And then all of a sudden we show up and our troops are in like Iron Man suits. And Biden was actually spry the whole time. And the stumbling, muttering fool he is an act. That's it. As soon as he gets off stage, he just straightens up and goes, "Did it work?"
Did you see the video? He was like walking with the Prime Minister of Japan today, and he's like stiff shuffling, and it's like they close the door. Suddenly, he's like, "Well, my friend, I'm here to discuss all." Like he just like is a completely different person behind.
Wait, who put that video?
Oh no! Today, the Prime Minister of Japan is visiting, and there was a clip of them walking in front of the White House. And you can just see he's like stiff and shuffling. But I like the idea that he's been spry the whole time.
Yeah, it's a trick.
They close the door, and everyone's caught off guard.
He takes the mask off and he's got his normal face on.
Pre-surgery. There was an old Saturday Night
face.
Live sketch about Reagan in that exact thing where he would, in the Oval Office and he's the affable old guy for a photo op. Little like Girl Scouts are coming in for a picture. And he's like, "Well, how you doing, little girl?" Blah blah blah. And he acts like the friendly old grandpa. And as soon as the door closes, he goes, "All right, now here's what we're gonna do." And he turns.
Yeah.
So it's just like you're describing.
Yeah.
There was a bit from Whose Line Is It Anyways when they're like, "What is George W. Bush doing when he's alone in the Oval Office?" And he's like pretending to be like quoting Shakespeare and saying all these things. And they open the door and he's like, what? I don't understand. Like that he's just playing sort of dumb the whole time. I think probably Biden is not awe-inspiring, but it's a good strategy for the military if they're just trying to look like we're in bad shape so we can surprise the enemy.
Yeah, it's part of the art of war. Sun Tzu's art of war. When you're strong, seem weak. When you're weak, play strong.
I mean, it would be smart. I'm not sure that's what
It's
they're
a
doing.
double-edged blade of intelligence.
It's a gamble.
Because you might trick your own people in the process, so you got to be careful.
Turns out inflation isn't really bad at all, and Biden was the greatest president we've ever had.
Well,
And
they're
they were
telling us that.
they were just pretending to be stupid.
Who knew?
Well,
we'd
they
only
keep
just
telling
read
us
the
the
news.
economy's not that bad, but it's very expensive to go to the grocery store these days.
I'm like, I don't want to join the military because I love my life in the civilian sector, but I do feel a desperate calling to aid the U.S. military in some sort of
need you.
command structure.
You should enlist.
I wouldn't enlist.
They wouldn't let you.
No,
Yeah,
I would like to
okay.
advise the president or something, at least in some way. I've done so
Which
much
one?
battle
I
tactics.
want everyone listening to imagine President Donald Trump being like, "We need Ian. Get him in here. He's going to answer what we do with Gaza."
Dude, and if you think, you guys listening, you think I'm crazy.
pretty good.
Yeah.
was a
Wait
good
for the
one.
rest of the country to be like, who is this freaking dude?
I can just see your cabinet headshot now with your hair and like a velvet blazer. It'd be great.
I've been watching all these Napoleonic war tactics. Napoleon had the new technology, but I mean, modern war, I just don't know what technology we have and how to use, because of that, I don't know how to use it and how to prepare for it. I can only imagine space lasers. I don't know exactly.
Some kind of lasers.
Earthquake
There's
weaponry.
lasers in there somewhere.
The Havana active denial
That's
weaponry.
That's a real thing, I believe.
The Havana syndrome.
Invisible
I
invisible
believe it.
weapons.
You know-
Active denial is different. That's when they microwave you.
Do you believe that the Havana syndrome is real?
Probably.
I do.
Yeah, I mean, there's questions about whether 60 Minutes is utilizing it to drum up fear and hatred for Russia, but there's probably so many weapons people don't know about.
Yeah.
Weird, freaky stuff that people wouldn't believe. I think most UFO sightings are probably just weapons research and technology. I saw a weird triangle in the sky. It's like, I don't know, was it a blackbird or something?
They're like, please stop asking questions now.
Yeah, they got talking plasma. You ever hear of that thing where they triangulate lasers? I think they're lasers to a point in the sky, 3 or more, and then it creates a ball of plasma that they can move around really fast because it's like a laser pointer, and then it'll show up on a radar, and they'll be like, "What is this craft on the radar? It looks like," but it's just moving light around, and then you can
And
tell
it'll look like a
transport.
tic-tac.
What's that?
It'll look like a Tic Tac.
Yeah, you can change the shape, potentially change the shape of it. I think I'm not quite sure about the shapes, but you can teleport sound through it, so you can like from a base station send lasers to a spot and then make people think they're hearing stuff. That's a new kind of weaponizable technology. Yeah.
That's wild.
So I don't know much about the Chinese army, but the way you see what the Russians are doing in Ukraine, they're having a little trouble. But the United States Army has always been the finest in the world, in my estimation. And, things like this Navy picture don't help the image.
Yeah. My dad, he joined the Navy during Vietnam. He didn't want to get drafted, so he joined the Navy.
So he signed up.
He enlisted, right away. And he's told me, don't ever join the military. If there's anything you ever want to do in your life other than that, do it, because it will rip your creativity out of your soul. And I just took it to heart. But now I'm in a point, but I did always think I think as an officer it would be a different story. He was an enlisted deckhand and hated it. Made him swab the deck and treated him like trash for a lot of time. So I could see command would be more respectable way to join the military. But I don't know. I'm 45 at this point. It maybe, but doesn't mean, it doesn't mean that the future is bright. So maybe we could go.
I feel like I've aged out of it. I'm 54. So
maybe you should do some basic training and for 3 months, just
I wouldn't
exercise and eat.
Exactly. That's where I'm at right now. I want to reduce caffeine because I'm also concerned with apparently a lot of pregnancies, like having trouble getting pregnant, is having to do with male sperm. It's less about the female, a lot about the male sperm.
Sperm quality.
Too much caffeine can super acidic. Too much coffee, so I'm cutting out the coffee. Want to cut out, what was the other stuff?
Yeah, but the Army runs on coffee.
Yeah. So I want
psychoactive stimulants.
I just want to get into a healthy, like a real man's day where I have kids, I have a family, I'm an actual muscular, normal dude. Then I'll consider maybe
you worked out
petitioning
one
the military.
time and we're just turning
Ian's missed 6 training sessions.
Well, I went for a 4.5 mile walk this morning. That was why I didn't.
And you're not lifting?
No, I lifted after you guys finished. I just went in there by myself. Oh, I did. I did chest presses. I did bicep curls. I did tricep
personal
pulls.
trainer. This guy's not showing up.
Did those tricep busts. And I've been skating a little bit, which is really good for the lower body. These push
that aerobic
pop shove-its.
You did a cardio
big
workout
time. Dude, my heart has been going into VO2. I don't know if it's max, but it's like, this is what it's supposed to feel like. It's been 30 years. And then as soon as I start lifting, it goes back into VO2 again. It's like the body's ready for it now.
Skateboarding, it depends, right? So today I was on the mini ramp, which is a lot of back and forth, and that's VO2 max. Yeah. So your heart rate is about to burst.
I saw
the
ones outside here.
Downstairs. Yeah, the downstairs one's way better.
Everywhere
it's a complete,
here.
Yes.
Indoor? You have an indoor one?
Yeah.
Oh.
And the one downstairs is complete. It's a mini ramp, so it's actually a half pipe, and you can go back and forth on it, and that'll get your heart rate up, and that's tremendous. That's tremendously cardio, but skating on the ground, like when you see someone running on the street. That's actually fairly anaerobic because it's a lot of jumps. It's a lot of bursts of energy and compression when you land. And so it's a decent mix, to be honest. But if I skate street, which is on flat ground, my heart rate will be around 160 to 170. If I go on the ramp, it's 185.
Really?
Yeah, just through the roof for a half an hour straight, nonstop, and yeah.
And I'm pretty new. I skated when I was 12, and I fell off the skateboard and dislocated my toe and missed my Washington D.C. field trip. And I've had trauma about skating my whole life. But getting back on there, Richie Jackson's been training me just without the wheels, even just the board, and doing pop shove-its and just over and over and over and over until get it. You want to land it perfect, and then all of a sudden it gets easy, and you're in this flow state where it's I just did it 3 times in a row, and then you're tweak and it'll do it again, mess up, and then you get back into that flow state again. And the whole time it's fun, so you don't realize how hard you're working out. And then I lay down and get into this recovery state. It is great.
When I was about 10 years old, my mother would not let me get a skateboard, and so I never really broke into that column. I'm sorry to say.
Well, let's jump to this story. We have this from the Daily Mail. Chicago's progressive Democrat Mayor Brandon Johnson unveils plans to spend another $70 million of taxpayer cash on 38,000, I love how they say migrants, criminal aliens who've arrived in the city on top of the $150 million already set aside for 2024. This is where your tax dollars are going, ladies and gentlemen. And I want all of the Gen Z people to share this. And if you know anybody who's Gen Z, share with them. And say, I don't care what you think. I don't care if you like them or don't like them. But don't complain about why you can't afford things while you support Democrats dumping your money into non-citizens. You got a dude who's 30 years old from Honduras. He's coming here and he's taking your inheritance away from you. So for all these Gen Z people who are where's my piece of the pie? Where's my American dream? Well, Democrats gave it away.
Yep.
They gave it away to people who aren't from here. So there it is, right there for you. Keep voting for it, I guess.
And who broke the laws. Their first act, as far as arriving in this country, was to break the law. And it's not just, Chicago, you might expect some craziness from Chicago. This guy's a self-identified socialist or communist or something, the new mayor. But the governor of Michigan, which you would think might be a little bit more mainstream than the mayor of Chicago, offering $500 a month housing subsidies to people who let illegal aliens stay in their house or stay in their apartments if they own apartments or things. $500 subsidies to actually encourage more. It's more of the same policies of the kind that Biden has been doing. He campaigned on doing this. He promised as a candidate, because if you remember the 2019-2020 Democrat sweepstakes, those primaries, where there was like 15 of them, and it was a race to see who could get further to the left on all kinds of things, including immigration, and who was going to be friendliest and let the most illegal immigrants. Biden promised that he was going to suspend deportations, not going to deport anybody anymore at all. He had a pathway to citizenship, which he called it. It's actually amnesty. He was going to give everybody free health care, allow them to legally enter the workforce, even though they were illegally present in this country. He said he was going to do all these things. People showed up at our southern border, illegal immigrants, illegal aliens showing up at the southern border wearing Biden t-shirts, telling reporters we came because Joe Biden said he wouldn't kick us out. And this is what you get. And it's continuing. And then he has the nerve to say it's the Republicans in Congress' fault for not having passed the stupid bill, which was not a border bill at all, but was in fact a Ukraine aid bill dressed up as a border bill.
It was like 70 million to Ukraine, or what? 70 billion?
70 billion, yeah.
And then
I forget the numbers exactly.
1.6 billion to the border, or like 10 billion. 10
Enormously
billion to
lopsided to give Ukraine money versus what the name of the bill was. It was supposed to be a border security bill.
Well, Ukraine's border security.
Yeah, Ukraine's border security. We love protecting Ukraine's border.
Technically another border. It is a border bill. It's just a bunch of different countries.
Just not
borders.
ours. Just not ours. And the media, of course, lets him get away with it again. And when he says, if the House Republicans, it's the House Republicans' fault that you campaigned on being the best friend that any illegal immigrant ever had. Right. That's Speaker Johnson's fault.
I got to clarify something you said earlier. You said the governor of Michigan, which is Gretchen Whitmer, is giving
$500 a month
to landlords, anyone that hosts an illegal immigrant.
It's a subsidy. It's a subsidy. Well, they would ultimately be receiving the money. I'm not exactly sure how
they're going to get it.
Whether the illegal alien gets the $500 and it's then passed on to the landlord, or whether it's a voucher and then the state pays the landlord directly. I don't know.
But you're
it's
saying
a state program.
The taxpayers are the ones paying this.
Yes.
So the community is being forced to pay people to host illegal immigrants which will then disrupt their community.
Correct.
And or displace the workforce in their community. So that's interesting.
And that's on top of the strain that it puts on schools, for example, and classroom overcrowding, emergency services, police, hospital emergency rooms. I used to work for a member of Congress named Lou Barletta from Hazleton, Pennsylvania, and you wouldn't think that Hazleton, PA would have a big illegal immigration problem, but they did. And the emergency room, the wait time at the emergency room went from half an hour to 9 hours average wait time at the emergency room, because that's what the illegal alien population was using as primary health care. They just go to the emergency room. And it tied it all up. And, their English as a second language budget in their public schools went from $500 to like $3 million in the space of 2 years.
Yeah, there are very serious consequences to the community.
It's not just the $500 of taxpayer money. It's everything. It's pervasive in the local economy. It strains everything. And they're not fully a part of the tax base. Yes, they pay sales tax because they buy things in stores, and sales tax, you can't escape sales tax, but they don't pay income tax.
Right.
They don't have legitimate Social Security numbers.
So they're draining resources without contributing back to them.
Correct.
Denver was also trying to get landlords to rent their properties to. They kept calling them like new residents or something. There's always a euphemism. That's what makes me crazy.
Right. Yes. New arrivals is what Michigan calls it. New arrivals, or no. I forget what they call it. If you Google it,
newcomers.
Newcomers, maybe.
Newcomers, new neighbors.
It might be called the Newcomers Housing Subsidy Program. I think that's what they call it, the Newcomers Housing Subsidy.
Wow, that is gross. That is dripping with nastiness.
Yeah, because it's supposed to make you feel like if you're against it, you're a terrible person, right? When actually what they're saying is someone who is here in the middle of committing a crime, being in this country illegally, is someone that should get money over you. I remember this with Boston or Massachusetts. Massachusetts had to say to people who were like American families that are experiencing homelessness or women experiencing domestic violence who are trying to find shelter with their kids. Oh, well, the shelters are full because we have a lot of illegal immigrants right now. So we'll see you when we see you. You know, like, I understand the idea that you should be charitable. On the other hand, if you're especially a tax-supported organization or a tax-supported resource, shouldn't you be supporting American families and American people first?
Yeah.
But instead, we're like, well, we can't close the border because then we would be admitting that Trump was right about something.
Charity, you're like central first. You're like, because charity is only like a portion of what you bring in, and if this is displacing your ability to bring anything in, then that's not charity. That's something other than charity. If it's being given to them against your will, you're not the
and
one
if it harms
donating.
the community, right? Like, communities suffer. This example of the emergency room is a great one. Communities suffer when we're saying suddenly a lot of people can be here and receive the resources that the rest of us pay into to contribute to. Like, that was the point of taxes, right? They're going to tax you, but they're going to offer you a service.
Right.
And
you get something
instead-
in exchange for your taxes. These people are getting the something in exchange without paying the taxes. Right. This is from Michigan.gov. Here's a description of it. Many refugees and other newcomers. There you go. Refugees and other newcomers. That's the catch-all. That's the dangerous one. Face critical housing challenges, and this program will increase access to better and more affordable housing opportunities while supporting a more rapid social integration to refugees and other newcomer populations to Michigan.
The other newcomers is a reference to the murderers and rapists.
That's those. Yeah, right there.
This is the newcomer rental subsidy.
Right. And there's been, the murder at the University of Georgia, that girl who got killed while she was jogging, Lake and Riley, that got a lot of the headlines. But a woman was just killed in Grand Rapids like 2 weeks ago by an illegal alien.
Someone commented on one of our videos, I think a couple weeks ago. They said Tim had mentioned newcomers, and they were like, "You guys don't ever call them newcomers, even in jest, because they want you to start doing that."
Yeah.
So just don't even consider that. Is ridiculous.
No, we say criminal
concept.
alien.
Illegal criminal
alien is good.
Well, criminal alien is the legal term.
Criminal
that's right.
alien.
Illegal immigrant is like, I don't know where that originates, but it's a softening of the legal term.
It's the word alien is all over the federal code.
Right.
That's the way the law is written.
And when they enter the country illegally, they have broken the law as criminals. They are criminal aliens.
Right.
That is the academic descriptive
that's
term
right.
for it.
You're right.
If I wanted to be mean, I could say a whole lot of other things.
Sure.
But we just say criminal alien. And then you get illegal immigrant, and then you get unauthorized, and websites like the Daily Mail, they say migrant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, migrant. Another one I just heard the other day was differently qualified.
What?
Yeah.
I've never heard that before. I always hated undocumented citizen. Like, they're
That's
not
the
a
big
citizen.
one that the left is pushing.
It's not. It's incorrect.
Right.
That's like a newcomer because they're trying to get that word citizen on the map.
Yep. They want to change the word so they can say undocumented citizen. And then in 20 years go, how is it that there are citizens of this country who aren't allowed to vote?
Right.
do
Yeah,
you mean
well,
they're
they're already doing
undocumented?
it.
Right.
New York City Council wants people to be able to vote.
Yeah, they lost that one though.
Yeah, I know, but their desire is apparent.
They're doing it in California. In California.
It's insane.
Yep.
It's insane. Honestly, God,
voting.
there's no other country on earth that would allow itself to not enforce its own borders. You can't be a country without enforcing your own border. Name another country on earth that would allow me to go there and vote in their elections.
Let's simplify it. How do you break it down? The definition of a nation. You want to look up the definition of nation?
Yeah.
And we'll break this down for everybody so they can understand in simple linguistic terms. What is the definition of nation?
All right. In a broad sense, this is the first definition. In a broad sense, a race of people, an aggregation of persons of the same ethnic family and speaking the same language or cognate languages. So that's
now look up country.
In a narrower sense, a political society composed of a sovereign or government that subjects or subjects or citizens, and consulting a political unit, an organized community inhabiting a certain extent of territory.
Right.
Ah,
So
there you
there's
go.
no territory. The borders are open.
Within which its sovereignty is exercised.
And so you ask, what country? Well, the answer is simple. We have no country. The United States is a sinking ship. It's
hard to argue with. Yeah.
It's been gutted.
It is.
And
Literally,
right
our
now-
nation is being flooded by people.
But
That's the metaphor of the sinking ship. It is being flooded.
A nation is a people, is a government, is a cooperation between these people to defend their jurisdiction
should say
and support
metaphor.
the people of their country. And right now we have no borders. And you have people in quote unquote government that are facilitating its destruction.
I should say metaphorically we're being flooded.
A rogue
Thank you.
faction is occupying what was once the United States of America, and they're destroying it. They're actively destroying it.
And is it, or what do you think? What's your vibe?
And tomorrow we're going to see that movie. It's called Civil War.
I'm pumped. Do you think it's intentional, or do you find that it's just stand by and wait while some other
I
forces
think on
at
the
play?
left it's absolutely intentional. This is voter farming. Yeah. Is what it is.
Well,
And they
it's
make no secret
electoral.
of it.
It's electoral power farming.
Right.
You bring the people in, you count them towards your census, get more.
They're already
congressional
counted
seats.
in the census.
And then
That's
and
already
then
happening.
Democrats get more congressional seats and more electoral votes.
Yep.
And so the minority position of this country is gutting the fabric of this nation to steal power and burn it to the ground.
Right. And the funny thing is, and the Democrats, this is further evidence that the left is at the steering wheel here in the administration and not Joe Biden himself. Joe Biden, they roll him out there and he starts using the word Latinx. Now, that is not a word that Joe Biden ever heard of. He didn't know that word. Some pinhead 23-year-old told him, oh, you got to say Latinx,
and
which is a word that's supported by approximately 1% of the American Latino population. They don't want to be called Latinx because it's a bastardization of the Spanish language. They don't like it.
So right now, what we're dealing with is we get many super chats, especially increasingly as of late, where people are saying the show didn't appear on YouTube. The show didn't appear even on our channel. And it comes and goes in waves. Now, perhaps for whatever reason, it is innocent why Timcast IRL, the show that y'all watch every night, didn't appear on your homepage like it normally does. But what's really alarming is when people say, I went to Timcast IRL on YouTube and the show was not there. There ain't nothing anyone can do about that unless we tweet it out. But I think this is obvious. We are throttled intentionally because of the conversations we're having like this. So I decided, we had 1,000 episodes as of yesterday. So I recorded a quick 30-second commercial where I said, hey, if you want to watch a show on news, culture, and politics, check out Timcast IRL. And I said, here's some of the guests we have. I included Marianne Williamson and Vivek Ramaswamy. And then I ran it. I put it on Google Ads and it said, denied, electioneering or something. So I appealed, re-recorded something without saying the names Marianne Williamson or Vivek Ramaswamy. I said, we've had many guests. We've got Michael Mouse. We've had Joe Rogan and even Kanye West. So check the show out. Subscribe. It has been pending for, 11 hours.
You know what'd be cool is a short video of a bunch of the funniest clips from our show.
Right. Well, I'm not here to talk about it. My point is, when the response I get from people when I ask them about it, they're like, YouTube right now is tightening everything pertaining to this election because they want their politics to be the politics that are dominant. And that means the goal will be, when we saw, who was it, Serge, Brin, and the other people at Google crying in that that video Breitbart released. And it wasn't just Breitbart, I think it was like Polygon too, crying, saying they would never let this happen again. Don't be surprised if it becomes increasingly harder to find a show like this as we get closer and closer to the election.
Yep. I worked at Mines. I was doing administration there, and I made a hard rule for myself and kind of for the company that if it's political, it's not going to go on the front page. That's just, it's too diverse. It's too binary. It's too opposing. It's too divisive. It's just not safe for work. Politics is not safe for work, in my opinion. And maybe the admins, I'm being benefit of the doubt. Maybe that's what they just don't want the politics all over the front page. More nefarious would be that they specifically don't want a certain type of politics.
I was going to say, share the show and we'll send out this reminder because as we get into the political season, there's a period in like 22 and 23, viewership was steadily increasing and everything like that. And it fairly is. But now we're starting to see people be like, why isn't the show appearing on the channel anymore? And I'm like, before we even get to that point, I'm going to say share the show.
Right. So do you think with YouTube, it gets more intense during an election season, then lets up, then goes back during election? Or is it always going to get worse and worse and worse on the platform?
So it's an interesting thing that happens because during election season, viewership skyrockets. Naturally, people are looking for information on politics, and advertisers are looking to target shows like this because they want to counter whatever opinions we have. So, for instance, in 2019, Bloomberg, I think it was 2019, Bloomberg was dumping money onto my YouTube channels because I was talking smack about Bloomberg. So he's like, no, we're going to, run. Yeah. Well, it's the only thing you can do. You can counter the message. So my prediction is actually our viewership's going to go nuts towards the end of the year. But with trying to put up this ad where I was like, we've never actually run an ad promoting the show before. Never, not once. We did like banner ads in Times Square and stuff. That was more of a prestige thing. Like, look, we are here and we have beaten the mainstream media. Now I was like, we did 1,000 episodes. Let's just do like a little bit, a couple $100 and see what happens. And we got denied for election. And I'm like, what? The show itself? Like, what's this all about?
It's certain words, right?
I think that right there when they denied the ad was them being like, only certain politics are allowed.
Right. It's interesting because you aren't campaigning for a candidate, you're just saying we talk about elections, we talk about politics, and they're like,
I didn't even say
"You
elections.
shouldn't."
I didn't say we talk about elections.
You said politics.
No. Oh yeah, right. I said news, culture, and politics. We've had a bunch of guests, even presidential candidates like Marianne Williamson and Vivek
Right.
Ramaswamy.
So it sounds to me like, I mean, the script that, as you described it, didn't express any opinions at all.
No.
It just told basic facts. This is what we talk about. This is who we talk to.
And Marianne Williamson's left and Vivek is right.
Yeah.
And I thought it was fairly balanced.
It just sounds like they were afraid that there might be dangerous opinions.
Deny.
Oh yeah, because Vivek's like the next president. He's going to be the next Republican president after
you
Trump.
See, you're not allowed to have those opinions. I lived through some. It's going to get worse if you think they're as we're approaching this election, they are going to throttle. You know that, right? I lived through it on the 2020 Trump campaign with the Hunter Biden laptop stuff and Twitter and Facebook, and then the entire mainstream news media deciding that it was a non-story, and as a group not going to report it. Twitter wouldn't let you share it. They suspended the New York Post's Twitter handle and all that for daring to publish the story in the first place. It was insane. The guy from Facebook openly said, no, we are throttling this story. We don't want people to be sharing this. They said it.
I want to jump to this cultural story because we've got time for about one more segment. This is from the Daily Wire. OnlyFans model quits platform after making millions, says she found God. She found God. After making $9 million on the porn streaming site OnlyFans, Nala Ray told the Daily Wire host Michael Knowles she's found God and quit the business. Ray sat down for a wide-ranging interview with Knowles, who dug into her own past as the daughter of a pastor and how she initially got into porn and what finally made her decide to let it all go. Now, the controversy here is, according to Pearl Davis, she says that this woman still had her OnlyFans up up until the day before she did the interview. And the whole argument that she's quit OnlyFans and no longer wants to be a hooker is a grift to make money. Now, the reason why I want to bring this up is because my response is good. Pearl Davis says, let me get this straight. I'm the bad guy for saying this is all for money. And then she brags in this interview about how much money she's making off God. What are you doing now for money? I just go live on TikTok and talk about God, and I'll make pretty decent money off that. My response to this is good. Even if it's a grift, this means grifters are learning that God is a better grift than porn. It's better to have these people pushing virtue instead of degeneracy. Pearl Davis doesn't quite understand the point being made. She says, I'm right again, take the L, because I'm just going to give my opinion, and I think Pearl will be here in the studio in a month or so, so perhaps she would want to have this conversation in person. I believe, like Pearl saying, I'm right again, take the L. My point is apt and completely correct, and there's no L to be taken. And the fact that she said that shows she's more interested in just attacking this woman for whatever reason and pushing her whatever her story or narrative is. Because look, this is a video. It says, here's the video of me reloading my browser off her page because screenshots can be from the past showing her OnlyFans is still available. My point. That has no bearing on my point. She is a degenerate, and now she realizes there is more money feigning virtue. It means that there is a culture shift towards virtue, to which she then tries to just hammer in the point that Michael Knowles is wrong and she's bad and it's bad no matter what, and we have to be angry and cry about it. Our culture is not going towards virtue when we used to have actual preachers and now we have OnlyFans models. I'm not sure how you can ignore this with the insane number of sex workers that have popped up among celebrities and even just on X, to which I must say again for the 800th time, this is called moving in the right direction. My point here is you had a woman who went on OnlyFans to make millions of dollars. And for whatever reason, she's like, I'm going to say that I found God. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. But imagine what happens when someone who used to do porn is turning it off, doing an interview with Michael Knowles, and then saying they found God. If that is maintained and encouraged, then there's kids who are going to go on a TikTok and they're going to find someone with tons of followers making money by saying, porn is bad, don't do it, find God. Even if she's lying to make money and laughing, going, conservatives are so dumb, look how rich I am. A bunch of kids will grow up hearing that message and believing it.
It makes me think of in Mere Christianity, the C.S. Lewis essays, when he talks about, my job is to bring you into the hallway. And when you decide what door, meaning like what, if you want to be Roman Catholic, Greek Orthodox, whatever, that's your choice to go in it. But the first thing I could do is to bring you to the hallway of Christianity. And that's where you need to start. Again, I can't say if this person is sincere or not, but it is interesting that if she is a grifter who is grifting, that she was like, there's money to be made in this venue. That means that people are desiring that content, right?
But let me ask: is her OnlyFans page still live while she's on TikTok talking about how she's become Christian?
It was for a
but
while.
it's not anymore.
Well, according to Pearl and others, right before she did the interview with Michael Knowles about it, she took it down.
Because if she were doing the TikTok pro-Christianity thing at the same time her OnlyFans page was still live, that could be a way where she thinks, I'll watch this. I'm going to pretend that I found God, and then people will get curious. That will drive more traffic to my OnlyFans page. And people will be, titillated because now this new Christian used to do porn, and there it still is.
And that's the argument for Pearl, that she's going to go right back to doing it or whatever, but whatever.
But you're right. As long as people are hearing that and they don't know it's a lie or a grift, it's still a good message.
But I'm going to tell this to Pearl as well. She tweeted, Tim, I have interviewed with 1,000 women ranging across Miami, LA, Atlanta, London, Ireland, Amsterdam, Germany. And I promise this is wishful thinking. There will be an explosion of sex workers. It's already starting the next 10 years. You're wrong. Pearl, you're wrong. I'm gonna let it simmer for a little bit. Okay, you're wrong. Okay, now that I've let it simmer, AI will erase sex workers in a year. Done.
I don't think so. You can't. You can't tap human touch.
Yes,
dude.
you can.
You can't.
No. We're talking about OnlyFans. We're talking about OnlyFans
stuff.
Okay.
Right. It's going to be erased.
Wow.
Gone. Because you already have these stories popping up of AI women who generate $30,000 a month or more. Wow. And a guy can run 100 AI women. Here's the thing. A real human woman will struggle against an AI that can deliver exactly what a person wants. A human can only try and guess at the emotional state of the person making the request. The AI can scan all the messages, compare the messages from guy A, guy B, guy C, and then know exactly what to send to a guy to get them to subscribe. And they're going to take all the money, and it's going to be dudes living in an OnlyFans virtual world plugged into a robot run by some big fat dude who's got 100 accounts. These women may start signing up for OnlyFans, and then they're going to drop off instantly because they ain't getting nothing from it.
Interesting. I've thought about AI and how it's going to replace a lot of stuff. What about the big voice movie voiceover guy? The guy who does the trailer voice, coming this summer.
Well,
right? That guy's gone. He doesn't have a job anymore.
Well, he's been gone for a long time.
Is that right?
Well, I mean, it's not one guy.
There's like an AI Orson Welles.
I don't mean just the one guy, but like a guy who does that for a living. The big voice guy, the voiceover guy.
Yeah, they don't. I don't think trailers do that anymore.
AI could do that.
Yeah, you wouldn't need him anymore.
Yeah, no. But that whole thing's been gone for decades.
Yeah.
The whole in a world gone mad. Like they don't do that anymore. Now trailers are all
just clips.
Yeah, so trailers go through trailer companies, and I watched this really great video where they broke down how Disney does it, and they compared Ant-Man's trailer, the Quantumania, to like 3 other trailers, and they are like shot for shot identical, even though they're completely different movies. The sound, the music, there's no more narration.
Formula.
But to your point, James Earl Jones already recorded the key intonations that you need to generate an AI voice and sold his likeness or something like that.
For Darth Vader?
Was that what it was?
I would imagine.
So they wouldn't have needed James Earl Jones.
Now they can just type in the words and he talks.
And they got, we listened to that song before the show.
We'll play that one in the
after show. It's really funny, AI generated song. And like they have, I think it's Orson Welles on Instagram. He's one of the narrators. When he talks like this, that's like the Orson Welles AI voice they use as a narrator. I do. Yeah, I think that
we're a year out.
With Nala though, this is the girl's name is Nala, the redhead girl. I saw her on Whatever, where she was doing her character, her Nala thing, with crossing her eyes and acting all weird. And I think Mary Morgan was on the show with her, looking at her across the table, like relaxed, listening to her. And Nala, I think at some point just saw the humanity in the people she was with, and like she's from a religious background, and she's very genuine talking to Michael Knowles. It's a wonderful interview. I've seen like 25 minutes of it. It was really nice to see the psychology of someone going through what she's going through.
Nala looked at how people who do sex work are treated, and was like, once you make all that money, you will be a pariah. You will be mocked and insulted forever, and the only way out is through reformation.
Yeah, she could very well be using it to escape something, but also maybe she's really feeling something. I mean, she got baptized. I don't know. She's just an interesting girl. Go watch that Michael Knowles interview with her after our show.
And I think Christians in this country, a lot of them are I don't want to say sensitive, but they're skeptical of being co-opted for, a shift in narrative, for a PR rebrand right now. I mean, think about how they're reacting to Rihanna's, cover of that magazine or whatever, where she dresses up like a nun, but it's obviously like mocking Catholicism. People, especially Christians, feel as though they have been the butt of a lot of jokes, and they don't want that anymore. And so they also don't want to be seen as this like, oh, well, if you claim to Christianity, we're just obligated to trust you blindly. And I can understand that sort of skepticism, right? Like if you feel as though your religion has been mocked and abused, why would you want to just say, oh, but anyone can join and claim it?
Yeah. I think they're probably used to that, though, because Christianity is really, this is not an original thought, but it's the only religion that you are free to mock, right? Those are the rules here in this country. You're allowed to make fun of Christians and no one else.
Well, I guess it depends on of like the actual religions, because we can make fun of the hokey ones, like the ones where they think
Hare Krishnas and the like.
Zoroastrianism.
Rastafarians.
Yeah, is that what it's called? Where I think aliens like made Earth or something?
I don't know. No, Zoroastrianism was a guy. They worshipped this guy named Zoroaster who worshipped the stars. It was like one of the first religions.
Hey, you're allowed to make fun of that.
It's like the Ghostbusters, the first Ghostbusters.
Is that what it was?
I don't know. It's like that. It reminds me of that. Gozer.
Gozer. Gozer the Gozerian.
Yeah, Gozer the Gozerian.
Zoroastrianism is one of the world's oldest monotheistic faiths. So this guy Zoroaster would like pray on a mountain, and eventually he saw like one in the many, and then from there, he's a pretty cool religion. I think with Christianity, when you accept Christ into your heart, there's no denying it. And anyone that tries to deny that, that's evil at work. Like if you're truly on the path, everything else is noise. So, Pearl, you gotta. Well, anyway, I'll see when I see it, Pearl, and we can talk more about it. But give her the benefit of the doubt and don't manifest evil in the world. Don't say things are going to get worse.
Well, I don't think we need to give her the benefit of the doubt. My point is not that she's a good person who found God. My point is when all the grifters start going, I too am a Christian, that means the narrative has shifted to the point where it is culturally and socially an obligate. Like, the left like to say, you're on the wrong side of history because we're going to push these ideas. When these grifters that used to be on the left are now going, actually, the right is who I am, good. It means that the right has dominated the cultural narrative.
It means it's desirable to be that.
Or that
to
they
appear that way.
They fear being on the wrong side of history, and they think God is the right side of history.
Interesting.
The truth is, power is a popularity contest. So,
it's a heck of a thing. If you decide you're an atheist, for example, it's a hell of a payoff if you're wrong, right?
What do you mean?
If you decide you're an atheist and then it turns out you're wrong, that there is a God, you've made a bad bet.
You've been saying you're not real this whole time.
Yeah.
Well, but I suppose the issue there is you're making a bet on any one God or polytheistic pantheon,
right?
I bet. For all you know, you go up to heaven and Zeus is up there and he's like,
Yeah. Wrong one.
I bet if you're an atheist and you're like, no, there's nothing, and then your body dies and your soul is being taken towards the sun, which will then send you to the galactic core, the bright white light. But you're like, no, it's not. And then your soul avoids it and gets spit out into the cold of deep space. That's hell. That's the absence of light. So don't avoid it. Let it be part of you.
Well, we're going to go to Super Chats. So if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with all your friends because it is political season and the thumb will be on the scale. So it's time. We ask for your support. Share the show with your friends. Become a member. That uncensored show is coming up at 10. But for now, we will read your Super Chats. All right. Bonk says, thank you guys for what you do. I'm unfortunately going through a divorce, and you all bring some normalcy to my day. I really appreciate it.
Bonk.
Sorry to hear about that, man.
I feel your pain. Focus on yourself. Try not to blame other people for what's going on right now. You can change. There's a lot of work that you're going to have to do on yourself, but you'll be okay.
You can do it.
Yeah, you can.
Vivid Scale says, Cast Brew Coffee has spoiled us rotten. We now feel like no other cup is as delicious. Mr. Boca's Pumpkin Spice Experience lives up to its name. Thank you, Timcast and team, for what you do every day. So we've got Appalachian Nights brewing now in the mornings. And there's a period where Allison switched out to some other company just because we had it from a trip or whatever. And I'm just like, it's just not good. It can't do it.
And did you know, or could you just smell it in the air?
Tasted
and be
bad.
Like, this is incorrect.
No, I tasted it and I was like, ugh.
Keep trying other coffees though, because you might find one that you want to integrate.
Dude, look, I made Appalachian Nights. Like we got a bunch of different roasts, and then I put together the ones that I thought made the most sense. I was like, here's what I like in a coffee. And it's my coffee. It's like
it's made for you.
When I bake cookies, they might be awful, but to me they're delicious. You know what I mean?
That's how I am too.
All right.
Like a parent and their child.
Yes. Yeah.
Most beautiful child.
You know, it's like I when I was younger, I'd be cooking and someone would be like, "Oh, you want to make some for me?" And I'd be like, "Well, you might hate it, but it's food for me, so I love it." And then, like, don't expect something delicious. But I'm sorry. I used to just put like grilled onions on bread with mayonnaise, and that was like my jam. But I'm sure other people were like, "That is not food."
I would eat that.
It's so good.
If you toasted the bread, I would eat that.
Yeah, little lightly toasted mayo, and then you just grill. I would do a whole onion on one sandwich.
That sounds
what it was.
awesome. Salt it?
No,
Didn't eat it because of the mayo?
yeah. I probably wasn't eating enough.
Could you smear the onion in? Was it gooey enough that you could just spread it? Or was it still kind of hard?
No, I don't get that crazy. All right, let's go. Robert De La Cruz says, FJB. Agreed. Manipple says, Putin is a pretty cool guy. He did ban Pride. Did he really?
They have all kinds of restrictions on stuff, like LGBTQ related stuff.
All right. Cody Cox says, I'm not sure if anything would shock me anymore in this cartoon republic of democracy. Agreed. Let's see how November goes. Tomorrow, we're going to go see that movie Civil War by A24. And I read some reviews and some critics' reviews. And they say it's nonpartisan, that it's not overtly political. I don't know. I guess we'll see. But the general idea is they don't really get into the underlying political catalysts for what sparks a civil war, other than by the time the president gets in, he takes extreme actions, which results in like revolt. He then tries to quell the revolt with airstrikes, which results in secession and sparks conflict of some sort. But I don't know. I'll watch it. I guess the movie is about a group of journalists traveling from New York to DC to cover the Civil War throughout this region, and then get to DC to interview. They're hoping they can get an interview with the president or something. But we'll see what it's.
Yeah, I'm looking forward
to it.
Nick
Offerman is the president.
No way.
Really?
Yeah, and they say that. So not a lot of information's been released about it, but the president gets in, disbands the FBI, tries to quell some revolt with airstrikes on American citizens or something, sparking states to declare secession. Texas and California secede, but then they form an alliance that they call the Western Forces, where, Texas and California are politically at odds, but France and the UK don't agree politically on everything, but they are part of an alliance, the US, and you know what I mean? Like, that's the general idea. Mm-hmm. Like, they're not the same country, but they're aligned militaristically. And then you have the, I forgot what the other factions are called. There's the Florida Alliance, and then there's like the New People's Army or something. But so there's five factions in the movie. We're going to go see it tomorrow at 4, which is the earliest screening, and then be back just in time for the show.
I hope it involves global, because like in a real U.S. Civil War, it would be China would be one faction, the Europe would be the other faction. So like it would be a foreign war. It wouldn't just be like insulated in some walled off.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I'm gonna be.
That's interesting.
I'm gonna be very critical,
because the global impact of that would be huge, and so what you're saying, other countries would align with one or other of the factions fighting here, right?
Yes.
And how would that all work out? I mean,
China
that's how the Revolutionary War was won.
Right.
France just basically did it.
Yeah,
it was, and Spain. Spain was involved as well. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna be very critical watching this film, because I read this stuff all day, every single day. And I'm curious to see how they address a few of these problems. I know Andy Ngo and Taylor Hansen have footage in the film that's in the credits.
Pretty cool.
And I'm interested in how they deal with the issue of currency and resource distribution in a civil war with 5 factions, because the U.S. dollar is meaningless. So California.
They get into that in the movie?
I don't know. I'd be interested to see.
Oh,
and if they
Bitcoin.
don't, I'll say missed opportunity, because it should be Bitcoin.
Yes, it's a good first movie to really push Bitcoin and like show what Bitcoin is to the mass.
I don't know
population.
about push, but point out.
Yeah, not push it to make people want it, but just show.
I could use a primer on that myself.
I hope, because if they miss stuff like that, I'm going to be really disappointed, because you've got these journalists and the storytelling of journalists going through a civil war, going to small towns and seeing how it's impacting, I think could be a great way to explain to people what it's like through storytelling. But if they miss currency, resource distribution, and other things too, I'll be disappointed, because there's a great opportunity for them to be talking to like a rebel faction and them asking, with the dissolution of the dollar, or your state's dissolution of it, how do you exchange resources? You have a guy say Bitcoin. And then it's just like, of course, because that's valuable across borders. So there's an opportunity there. We'll see though. We'll see tomorrow, and then we'll definitely talk about it. All right, let's go. Wrath of Paul says gold still trading near all-time highs. The Fed can't raise rates due to the interest on the national debt. Once the market realizes inflation is here to stay, gold and gold stocks will skyrocket.
Is that true? No one has to say for sure, the economists, but they've been saying that my whole life, 40 years. Gold's gonna fly
one of the
up.
stories that we actually had pulled up, we didn't get to, was Costco dumping like $200 million worth of gold every month or some ridiculous number.
They're just selling it off.
People are going to Costco and buying gold. Yeah, nobody wants to hold U.S. dollars right now.
Yeah.
I think
it's crazy.
Personally, I'm not a money manager, but I definitely value the U.S. dollar for now, but I'm divested. I'm in crypto. I'm in, metal. I like the three, those trifecta. I'm not in foreign currency. Not really. Not at all.
All right. Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, Tim, towards a comment from yesterday, the Marine Corps Force Design 2030 plan is to make a leaner, more agile force to island hop in the Indo-Pacific, going back to our roots of amphibious assaults. There it is. There it is.
The Marines are one of the only branches that makes the recruitment goals, so they are probably the only ones who could actually pull off any kind of strategy change.
Whoa. The Soft and Fuzzy says beef cows were $250 a head last year. This year, it's $550 a head. Wow.
Thanks,
Carry your
AOC.
cows. Be good to your cows.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have certain like European countries. Ireland, for one, is imposing mass killing of cows. They're like they decide you have too many. We have to kill some of your cows.
They're
And
anti-cow.
we
That's
only
crazy.
It's true.
We only
They're
eat
doing that.
Kerrygold. We do only the Kerrygold butter. So we're worried. How am I going to get my imported Irish butter once
There you go.
But there was some guy, he had a tweet. He said, you will stop eating meat whether you like it or not or something. And I'm like, my guy, I own chickens. I am going to eat meat forever. You can ban them from the grocery store, but I got a Chicken City outside, and those little dudes make more of themselves and
feel
then just
like-
eat bugs off the ground.
Yeah, whoever tweeted that doesn't know anyone who hunts to provide meat for their family.
Yeah. There's too many deer. We had so many deer last year, they were gaunt and dying because there was no food for them because they were eating everything. And it is really funny when you look at the trees, there's a straight line. All the trees are perfectly cut. Because
I know we have deer in my neighborhood.
It's
I
what
know
the deer
about
can reach. And so we're looking at this like, how come all the trees are evenly cut? It's like, the deer reach up and they eat them.
My wife has a brand new weeping cherry, and the deer are merciless.
They
on that
love
thing.
it.
Yeah, they stole all of our apples.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we're not so mad though. We like making applesauce from the apple tree, but you can only do it for a little bit. But the deer don't touch the wineberries. So wineberry season is based AF.
Yeah. That's
And
coming
then-
up, I think, actually.
Like 2 more months, maybe. The other news is the tadpoles in the pond are fully tadpoles, and they got little tails, and they're swimming around doing tadpole stuff.
I could hear them on my walk earlier. I heard the
frogs?
That noise is like, yeah, they're making that crazy
Oh,
noise.
dude, but it's crazy because
wild.
there's like a swamp nearby, a pond, and there's like 10,000 frogs. So it's just all night. It's like they're loud.
And they eat the bugs, I guess. Eat the mosquitoes. I was thinking about that on the walk back, so they're probably pretty good for the environment.
Yeah. We bought feeder fish last year when we set up the pond and just dumped them in. And we were like, we'll see if they make it through winter. And now they're big.
Oh, the goldfish?
They're not goldfish. They're just feeder fish. They're like, I don't even know what kind of fish they are. They're just, you go to a pet store and you're like, I need food for my bigger fish or whatever. And then they just scoop up 100 of them into a bag and said, there you go. And then we put them in the pond, and now there's a bunch of them, and they're like 3 times as big. I hope they're having babies.
Cool.
Yeah. The frogs are all having babies, and they won't shut up. They scream all night. All right, let's go. 467 Sprite says, how many young relationships are suffering from this not knowing where the money is going? Look, this country is in more than a military crisis, more than a border crisis. The next generation, which needs to inherit industry, buy houses, otherwise the prices of homes will collapse and investments will collapse. They need to have kids. They need to have families. And if they don't, this country ceases to exist. And that is the track we are on right now. So I will say conservatives are having lots of kids. So perhaps
Seems that way.
in 20 years, the country will be a smaller population. Democrats are trying to pad the numbers as much as possible with non-citizens, which is just a recipe for a civil war.
Right. I think there are a lot of young relationships who suffer, especially during hard economic times. And I think this is something you'll see a lot, especially with the birth rate in decline. People will say like, oh, well, we just couldn't afford it. We just opted to go without these things. And it is crazy to think that this is probably the same group of people who are like, well, I probably should vote for Biden because Trump is bad. Like, he's costing you your future, basically.
Right.
The afford thing's interesting because it's an investment. You spend a lot up front and you get a lot more later.
Here's one. The Yeti says, Biden is either proof the Illuminati doesn't have cloned people, or the clones wouldn't stop sniffing kids.
That's That's a good one.
They were going. Clones were going rogue. They had to shut down all the Biden clons.
Marani says, love listening to the show the next morning when I'm casing my mail route or delivering my route. I started paying more attention to politics just last year, and y'all were the first I noticed, and I found my people with y'all. Here.
That's okay.
That's cool. Was that Casey?
Tell your friends.
Who was that?
Tell your friends.
They said Casey.
You know,
What was the name?
one of the challenges I think we have is like, this is not really a podcast. It's a live primetime show. And so viewership wise, if all of our audience was on iTunes, we'd probably be in the top 10 or the top 20 based on the numbers. Cause like we do have a podcast version, so we know where it is. And, you know, I'm like, man, it would be greater. Like I got to figure out marketing for the podcast side of things, cause that's an audience that we don't reach as well. But, yeah, that's like a disadvantage that we've got, I guess. It's an advantage and disadvantage, I suppose, being one of the biggest live shows on YouTube, but
I think the
we don't
advantage,
have the podcast reach for those who are listening to the show the next day.
the advantage of the format is it's higher quality. Like 4 people in a room, 5 people. Sorry, Serge. The man, by the way.
We're not counting our only
always
African American.
The star of the show to
That's
my right.
very rude.
Serge Duprea. How do you say your last name again? Is it Duprea or Dupre?
Don't dox Serge. He doesn't give
Everybody
us
knows
personal
Serge.
information.
So I think it's just it's like we're friends. It's like real people hanging out in a room, hashing stuff out. I don't know. I
It's
like
less stilted than like.
I think as a visitor here, it's a very easy conversation to slide into. It feels like.
Yeah. Peanut Pirate says, Tim, I'm an econ major. The government and media almost exclusively hire Keynesian economists, which is hogwash. Chicago economists like Sowell and Austrian economists are reasonably good at predicting things. Well, there you go. TN says, Missouri Elections Office emailed me back regarding those crazy SSA voting numbers. They said it's not new registration, but checking their data against SSA data for clean rolls. Posted email in Discord. That's what we thought it was, but that flies in the face of what the law states. So the SSA says, according to the law, this is only verification for new voters. And we were speculating, like, what if they're doing voter roll checks by asking to verify these voters? That would mean the states are abusing the verification system according to the Social Security Administration in order to clean up their rolls.
But then why would if what they're saying is true, why would some states have 0?
Because they're not.
Did no one die in that state?
Well, no. It's the idea is that Texas is doing a voter roll check. So they take their
The other states are not.
But this makes no, I'm sorry, this still makes no sense. They don't need to go to the Social Security Administration. They have the driver's licenses. So what they're saying is they're going into their voter rolls and pulling all of the people with no licenses and then verifying if they're still alive or whatever. I guess fine, maybe, but that would mean all of them would be dead. So I guess the idea is they're going into their database, looking for everybody who's registered to vote in the past who has a no ID, and then checking to make sure they're a real person, which I don't understand the point of.
Well, there's always new people.
But they're looking for dead people, I guess.
And new people. There's always new they're not citizens.
No. But the point is, this person said they got an email back saying that it was voter roll cleaning.
Well, that's okay. I mean,
But so then
who emailed them?
The Social Security Administration is going to be pissed off when they find out. It's like, hey, wait a minute. Like, this is only for new voters. What are you doing?
Yeah.
You're using our federal service and tax dollars to basically do your voter roll cleaning.
Right. You need the Social Security office to respond to this and be like, that's not what we're doing.
Sean Nesman says, Tim, you're always saying how scary it will be when Neuralink gets to a right phase. Check out the show Dollhouse. It's about that exactly. And so what's that Upload or whatever the show's called? What's that show called?
I think it is, but I haven't seen it.
Where the guy dies and they upload his brain.
Yeah.
And when you die, you can retire virtually for the rest of your life.
Would you want to do that?
No.
I wouldn't either. It sounds
No,
awful.
I would upload my consciousness to a robot so that I can fly around and shoot fireballs. And then they're going to be like, why did we do this? Why did we put his brain in that body?
It's like a Tim Pool action figure in the making.
Yeah.
That's actually a part of the show too, though. A rich guy gets a robot body so that they upload his mind into it, and then he's like walking around so he can keep running his business.
Part of Upload?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Toxic workaholism.
Would you?
No.
Like,
In the show,
what about at the last minute?
In the show, it's illegal to work after you die.
Oh.
Interesting.
Yeah, because it would disrupt the labor market.
Okay. What if at the last minute, right before you die, you get to make the decision if you want to keep going in a
That's what
robot
the show
brain?
is.
So if that was there, would you consider maybe keeping the door open that maybe at the last minute you would say yes?
I mean, I can't say what I'm going to do on my deathbed for sure, but it doesn't seem like something
I would just say yes. You know why? Because what would really happen is when you say yes and then your soul is ripped from your body and you go to heaven or hell, you can look down or up at the robot pretending to be you.
So, but your consciousness is in the robot while your soul is either in heaven or hell?
It's a copy of your consciousness. You're
It's
gone.
a copy.
Yeah, there's
So
a
you're
meme.
not aware of
It's
it?
a fractal.
No, I mean, whatever you're aware of in heaven, I suppose. There's a meme where it's a guy says, it said me looking up from hell at the robot body and with my consciousness uploaded into it, masquerading as me. Like,
But what
you
if you
can
could-
copy your brain into it, but you're not going in it.
What if you could be the robot and you're the spirit that's in space that can travel the universe?
But there's no guarantee of that, right?
Everybody
No.
knows who has done DMT that we are puppets piloted by fourth dimensional elf beings of some sort. And so when you get separated from it, whatever is here on this earthly plane stays and you go somewhere else.
I just don't think that it would ultimately serve me. Like what is this for? I haven't watched the show, but you said like he gets uploaded to a robot so he can continue to run his business. So maybe he felt like that was worth doing. But like, is it going to be good for your kids if you have like a robot body and are still hanging around kind of forever?
Whoa,
like,
you know
who
what?
benefits from
There's
this?
a sitcom in there somewhere.
Yeah, seriously.
Dad is a robot with the consciousness uploaded into it, and then the family has to adjust.
Like, especially if you were like to
You know?
to have young children, like maybe that would be good for them to have your consciousness around for a long time. On the other hand, like it's just you kind of living on forever in a robot form that is like a fake you.
Or a dad who's like in his early 40s has a heart attack and he's in the hospital and then he's comatose and the doctor's like, he's not going to make it. So the wife is like, I'll sign the forms, upload him. And then they upload his brain to a robot body. The robot dad wakes up and he's like, what am I? And she's like, it was the only way to save your life. Your body is dying. And then all of a sudden the body goes, I'm fine. I've had a recovery.
Now
and
what?
now there's two of them. And then it turns out the robot is like evil.
Oh boy.
Would you call it Robot Dad? Would that be the name of the show?
No, it'd have to be
We have to
something
stop
scarier
Robot
than
Dad.
that. It'd have to be something scarier than that, like, you know,
It's pretty good. That's a pretty good premise.
That's all right.
the
yeah.
darkness of mind or something.
Yeah, it's cool.
Mom has to make a choice then.
Oh, she falls in love with them. She doesn't know.
Yeah,
She
which
starts
one
to
is she
wonder.
married?
Okay,
It's
well, I
like
gotta be
people
honest,
would get
this is
lost
already a
at
movie.
sea and she would get
It already
remarried.
is?
So not that, but there's a movie where a woman's husband dies. I forgot what it was called. I just watched it, and she has him his consciousness. You save point your mind, so that if you die, your mind can be uploaded to a robot body and you're brought back as like a comfort for your loved ones or whatever. And then she's like, "This was a mistake. I never should have done this. You need to leave." He finds out he's a robot. And then he murders her and replaces her with a robot version of herself.
I've seen this too.
Yeah.
What was that?
I don't know. It was a couple years ago on Prime or something.
Did you guys see the Sybil Shepherd movie where her fiance dies and then he's in heaven and he's waiting in line to get reincarnated, and they're giving everyone like an injection before they get reincarnated so they forget their past life, but he's in such a hurry to get back to her that he runs through the line and is born again. And so when he's reborn, he starts to remember his past life and he falls in love with her again when she's an older woman. It's a badass movie. I
That
saw it when I
sounds
was
like
young.
pro-cougar propaganda.
It was,
Interesting.
but Sybil was great at playing young and
he gets
old.
a jab and then he marries an older lady.
No,
Not
he
a
skips
society
the
I
jab.
wanna
He
live
skips
in.
the jab. He
Well,
Have you ever
fair.
watched those videos where kids say creepy stuff? Like I was watching this compilation of kids who have like memories of past lives or whatever, and there was like
Heaven can
like
wait.
video from a car or whatever, and the kid is like, he looks over and he's like, "That's where I went to school," and they're like, "When?" And he was like, 50 years ago,
Yeah,
or some
that's
creepy
creepy.
thing.
Yeah.
And then they say things and they're like, "How do you know that?" And then like the parents say like, "We looked into it and he was right about the name of a teacher who had been there and we don't know how he knows."
Yeah, I've heard of things.
I've heard. I knew a girl who, her imaginary friend was. She was like playing, and her mom came in and was like, "Oh, what are you doing?" She's like, "Playing with my friend." She's like, "What's your friend's name?" And it was like Emma, and that was the first child the mom had who had died from SIDS, and she never talked about her ever.
yeah.
And they were like, presumably someone in the family maybe mentioned it, and that's
Yeah.
where it came from, but. The mom was totally creeped out. She's like, "What do you mean you're playing with Emma?"
All right, let's read
I think,
some more.
I think the
Sky-
movie I
let's
was
read
looking
some-
for was called Heaven Can Wait,
Oh,
by
yeah.
the way. I don't know if it's Civil
Warren
Civil.
Beatty. That's an old one.
So
yeah.
let's read some more
I've
super
seen
chats. We got Skylar Rest saying, "Greetings, Tim and Cast. I feel the culture is slowly turning. Recently started listening to a band called Dope. In 1999, they released a song titled F the Police. In 2023, they released a song titled Choke, which peacefully advocates quieting woke people, that's not a good thing.
What?
Question mark.
Yikes. All right. TJK says illegal immigrants filing for asylum can file for a work permit under current law after waiting 180 days without resolution for their claim. These people are getting work permits.
Yeah, that's what Kathy Hochul kept saying. She was
Yeah.
like, they're here. We might as well give them work
Right,
permits.
but
so they
they're
can...
abusing what the definition of asylum ought to be.
Absolutely.
Right.
You know,
Because you can just say it. You don't have to
coming
prove it.
here because you think you can get a job because Joe Biden will let you in does not make you a political refugee seeking asylum.
Right.
Clint Torres says, howdy, people. Tim, Pearl is just the Dylan Mulvaney of the red pill. She has tried all she can and now playing to the base that shop her the most. It's all just a huge grift. Yeah, I feel like when no matter what the default is, woman bad can't be good. It's like, well, certainly not every single instance is a negative thing. And when my point is, wow, it's a good thing that people are starting to grift God, because if that means they think God is the right side of history. And then she's like, take the L. It's like, I saw that my immediate reaction was, she's grifting. Like, there's no L to be taken. I'm not wrong. They're grifting because they think it's the right side of history.
Right.
It doesn't mean they're good people. She's still a degenerate.
Yeah, neither one of you is arguing that she's sincere.
So then, right. So Pearl's just saying, no, take the L because it's a grift.
Yeah, and sometimes people have no idea which direction to go, so they'll just go to the one they think looks the best. That doesn't mean they're grifting.
That's a cultural war episode.
But people
What
also
what is
abuse
the grift?
I think, I know, people abuse the word grift.
I was
now,
thinking that
too,
today.
You know? Because sometimes it's just, it's just a job. Just because you, like, for example, on Twitter, people who have worked in and around Trump world are all the time being accused of being in on the grift, right? But working on political campaigns is a grift now? It's actually a career. People do it for
everything's a grift.
Everything's a grift.
All right, everybody, if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with all your friends. This political season, it's going to be fun. We are planning a major election show at the, I believe it'll be at the Martinsburg location. It's going to be like our Olympics, basically. I was going to say Super Bowl, but like our Olympics every 4 years. And so this one's going to be a big show. And we'll probably be live all day on election day. Come November, so it's going to be a lot of fun. But now we're going to go to the Uncensored show over at timcast.com, so become a member if you'd like to watch, and then we're going to take callers. So if you're a member, you can actually submit questions and talk to us. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me personally at Timcast. Other Tim, do you want to shout anything out?
I do. I'd like to hawk my book one more time. It's called Swing Hard in Case You Hit It. This is partly about politics, my years in the Trump campaign and in other politics, but the other half is my decades-long struggle with alcoholism and how I made it out. I went to rehab 5 times, and every time I was in rehab, I spent a lot of time in the bookstore, and I read the books that were written by people who told their own stories about how they made it through, how they escaped addiction. Those are the books that I wanted to read. Those are the ones that helped me, and that's what I wanted to write. And I figure if somebody is struggling with addiction and picks up my book and just flips through it for a few minutes, and in those few minutes they don't take a drink, then it was worth writing. So, I have found that it is universal. I talk to so many people, either they themselves have had a problem drinking or with other substances, or somebody in their family. It's almost a universal problem that affects nearly everybody in this country. And so that's the book I wanted to write, Swing Hard in Case You Hit It. It's available now on Amazon, Target.com, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, all the places. Anywhere you can get a book, you can find this. Paperback, hardback, and Kindle available now.
That's awesome. I think that's such an interesting blend of both, political topics.
There's a
and
lot of
personal.
stories in there from 2020 and 2019 on the Trump campaign that have never been published before, and I think people will find it interesting. Plus, all the drinking stories in here are just insane. People have worse stories than mine. I try not to compare, but you read this thing, and as I read it now, and I think, my God, how did I survive?
Yeah.
You
It's probably fascinating. I'm going to get a copy and read it.
I wish everybody would. Swing Hard in Case You Hit It by me, Tim Murtaugh.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us
There it is
tonight.
right there. Oh, it was a pleasure. A lot of fun.
I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for SCNR.com. That's Scanner News. I'm really grateful to be part of that team. They work really hard. If you want to follow our work, it's at Timcast News on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to follow me personally, I'm on Instagram at hannahclaire.b, and I'm on Twitter at HCBrimlow. Thank you guys so much for all the support. Bye, Ian.
See you later, Hannah Claire. I'm Ian Crossland. Follow me at Ian Crossland all over the internet. Tim, people are going to follow you at Tim Murtaugh on Twitter.
At Tim Murtaugh.
On X, rather. Sorry about that, Elon.
X.
X. at Tim Murtaugh. And also for everyone that was listening to that movie about the reincarnation, it's called Chances Are. It's not Heaven Can Wait. It's called Chances Are with Sybil Shepherd. Wild movie. Had me thinking as a kid about reincarnation. And so it was very, very interesting. So check that out. Also, you're going to want to see the after show because we're playing this wild AI song that I've been busting up laughing about.
There's a bunch of them, actually.
Yeah, maybe we can pick a
getting
few
crazy.
of them apart. So maybe we'll see. I will see you there. And I'll see you later.
Cheers, everybody. Let's get to that after show.
We'll see you all over at timcast.com in about a minute. Thanks for hanging out.